Welcome to a sparkling new podcast from Mike Parry and Mike Graham. We're the two Mikes.
Actually, it sounds even better when you do it Dullsville, because when you try to be happy and excited and energetic, you sound pathetic.
Thanks. Good morning, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry. You're listening to the two Mikes on talkSPORT. Cristiano Ronaldo says he wants to move back to Manchester United after the Spanish tax authorities insulted him by asking him for money. How dare they? And if it does happen, it will be the single biggest story in the Premier League since it launched in 1992. Mr. Parry says you should never go back. I think it would be brilliant, not only for English football, but for Manchester United fans everywhere. Of course, we'll find out exactly what's happening in Madrid with Graham Hunter coming up a little bit later on. 08717 22 3344. Also coming up on the show, we're talking asparagus. Plus, it's another sparkling edition of Heroes and Villains, and we'll be finding out how Porky is dealing with this latest heat wave that's sweeping the southeast of England. You're listening to the two Mikes with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry on talkSPORT. This is talkSPORT. We are the two Mikes, and I'm delighted to say it's time to say a very good morning to Mr. Mike, a Porky, a Parry. Very good morning to Mr. Parry.
And a very good morning to you, Mike. And you're right to warn of the heat wave.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving it that consideration.
Yes.
Because if it gets as hot as people say today, 94 degrees,
something like that, yeah.
I don't know how I'm going to get out of this building and get home today.
Maybe
because I cannot operate in those sort of temperatures.
Maybe you should just
ridiculous.
stay in the air-conditioned studio.
When only 1/3 of your heart works, you've got to realise how much harder your body has to work to repel the damage that heat does to the human body.
Yes.
I got
Well, yesterday was a pretty hot day. How did you manage yesterday?
Well, I lay low. I mean, if you follow my social...
I saw some of your tweets
yesterday, yeah.
Which included a very odd-looking picture from what looked like the inside of a funeral parlour.
No.
Of some kind of a glass of milkshake of some description.
No, that's very unkind to say that. That was from the floral decorations in part of my extended lounge.
That's actually the curtains you've got.
Yes, absolutely, it is, yeah. and I got a lot of very, very complimentary tweets about that. But
I don't see any.
I went on to the banana shakes because I really just wanted to get onto fluid because food would be too hard to digest in this heat.
I see.
Followed that with some ice cream for a sort of late lunch.
Yeah, see, that was
caramel.
an interesting picture as well, wasn't it? Because there was a bowl of ice cream which you claimed was somehow sustainably sourced.
Yes, that's right.
I don't know where it's sustainably sourced from.
Well,
presumably the freezer.
No, sustainable ingredients within the ice cream. That's
but
what
you
I
were
meant,
in a pub, clearly, and in the background were 2 pints of beer.
They weren't mine.
Which I pointed out were probably the ones that you'd bought to pretend that you had somebody with you.
No, not at all. No. But you see, you make up all these things on your own. But anyway, the point is, what I'm saying is, I don't know how I'll get out of here today if it's 94. I mean, I will have to just ring for a car with super air conditioning to take me home.
Okay.
But the worst fear of my life yesterday came to me from a follower of the two Mikes who is in Las Vegas on holiday, who very kindly sent me a picture of the dashboard of the car in which he was in.
Oh, yeah.
He was being, carried around Las Vegas to show the outside temperature was 113.
Yes.
113 degrees.
113 degrees, yeah.
I mean, that's unbelievable. That can't sustain life, can it?
Well, yeah, but that's because it's like... I mean, I took the dog out for a walk yesterday.
Yeah.
And it was like walking around in somewhere like Portugal or Spain.
Yes.
The ground was absolutely as hard as hard could be. There was dust everywhere you walked because there was no moisture in the ground.
Good job I've got a bird bath for the birds. They're really welcoming that at the moment.
I mean, it probably would have completely evaporated. And it was remarkable. I must tell you, and I'll tell you a bit later on, I saw a very odd creature as well.
An odd creature?
Yeah, and I'm not quite sure what it was. So I may be seeking...
Is this the big sort of, moose-like type creature?
Moose.
What did you
No,
say
it
it was
wasn't a
last
moose.
time? What was it?
That was a capybara last time.
Capybara, yeah. What's that again?
It's a sort of giant rodent from South America.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
That tends to hang around
well,
the
do you think
riverbanks.
it was the same one again?
No, I don't think it was a capybara.
Oh.
No, it was something completely different.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what it was. It was quite spooky.
Well, you have to give us
I will fill you in on that,
a description of that
But
later.
we've got lots to talk about. We're going to talk about the golf, of course, a bit later on,
Yep.
because you jinxed the British contender
Not
at
at
one
all.
point. Do you see he made it into the top four, though, which is more than his beloved Everton are ever going to do.
One Tommy Fleetwood. There's only one Tommy Fleetwood.
Well, you issued the praiseworthy chant of "Rock on, Tommy."
That's right, yeah.
Which hasn't been heard for about 45 years.
No, well, that's true. But the first 4 or 5 holes in the last round, he didn't go to pieces, but he didn't have the best of his 4 days.
Well, you know what I heard,
and then after that, he was playing pars and birdies. He got with him.
But he was sinking 10-foot putts to save par, which is not really the sign of a winning combination. Really,
Nevertheless,
he did very well.
He did very well. I mean, he finished 4th fourth in the US Open, then you've achieved something in life.
Absolutely.
I mean, you could walk up and down, Lime Street in Liverpool for the next 35 years and say to somebody, excuse me, did you ever play in the US Open? And you go, anybody did.
And you go, yes, I came fourth. But does that mean that you've parked your, if you're not winning, you're not trying hard enough mantra then?
Well, no, because I think it's only the second major he's played in. And,
but he didn't win it, though.
Well, no, he didn't win it, but what I'm saying is you build up towards these things. Rory McIlroy didn't play the first major he played in, didn't win the first major he played in.
I know that.
So what I'm saying...
What I'm saying is, will you now recognise that not winning sometimes is a very, very massive achievement?
Yeah, but he's on the way to winning, so he is trying very hard, and he's going to get there eventually.
I see.
The Open this year in July is in Birkdale, and that is his local club.
Yeah.
He played there as a kid, but he has got a heartbreaking story that he would know Birkdale better if he'd been able to afford a few more rounds at the exclusive Birkdale club. He had to play the municipal courses nearby.
Yeah,
so this is a boy who's pulled himself up by his bootlaces. Yeah. It's a terrific example to all of us.
So when did you first come across this guy then, Tommy?
Tommy, known him for
known him for a long time. Big Everton fan.
Big Everton fan, known about his reputation for a very long time.
Because you only really started supporting him yesterday, didn't you?
I didn't start supporting him yesterday at all.
You never heard of him before that?
How dare you say that? Of course I had. I know exactly.
Anyway, but listen,
we're
going to talk about all that later on, because I put out a picture, by the way, for anyone who hasn't seen it, of your sort of golfing aficionado status, because you and Ian Poulter were once photographed together. And unfortunately, the picture sort of started the great decline of Ian Poulter's game.
No, it didn't.
Because when you were posing with him many years ago, he was right at the top of his game.
He was number 6 in the world.
Number 6 in the world. He was, right at the top of every leaderboard on every major that you watched around the world. He was massively important on the Ryder Cup scale. And pretty much after he played golf with you and posed with you with your ridiculous tiny little kind of Louis Vuitton bag.
Don't be ridiculous.
And those crazy shorts you're wearing. His whole career went down the Swanee.
They were his shorts, by the way, designed by his own fashion company. And he gave them to me before we started playing.
They look absolutely hideous.
And your scenario of what happened is utter rubbish, as is most of it. But anyway, we're going to be talking, aren't we, about Cristiano Ronaldo?
Cristiano Ronaldo, yes, absolutely. Well, we kicked this off on Saturday, actually, ahead of the game, as we always are. And he seems to be quite upset about this tax business, doesn't he? And there are those who say, well, he's only really trying this on to make sure that he doesn't have to doesn't have to fork out the money.
13 million would be nothing to Real Madrid.
Well, it'd be nothing. Well, hang on. But they apparently, as we heard from Danny Kelly there, Ramon Calderon, the former president of Real Madrid, said it would be morally unforgivable for Real Madrid to pay the money, as well as possibly illegal.
Well, not according to Cristiano, because Cristiano's view is, I signed all the deals, they were all above board, everything that was taxable was taxed and has been paid. Nobody told me they'd then come back and change the rules and make me pay extra tax on image rights. And I think he's absolutely right.
I had a similar problem when I got made redundant.
And he should stay at Real Madrid, because he won't be any good in the Premier League.
What are you talking about? He'd be fantastic in the Premier League.
Honestly, the hype will be so overburdening.
Would you not agree that he has become a far better player in La Liga than he ever was when he played for Manchester United before?
Only because he's grown up and grown older. I mean, they developed him at Manchester United. He was a raw kid when he first got to Manchester United. So Alex Ferguson saw the genius in him. And when he went to Real Madrid, he was 2/3 of being the world's best player. He now is the world's best player.
But now he is the world's best player. He's fitter, he's stronger. He's got more stamina, he's got more tricks, he's got more skill, he's got more kind of vision, he's got all of those things that footballers need to be fantastic, right? And so he would be a massive improvement on the Cristiano Ronaldo that left Manchester United all those years ago.
Well, he may be or he may not fit back into the current Manchester United team. And Jose is not all that partial to him, because they fell out in the last
I don't think that
months
matters.
of their time together. Well, it does. It matters big style.
Well, look at that. Ask Juan Mata how much that matters, because Juan Mata got fired by Jose Mourinho from Chelsea, right? And everyone was joking at the first moment that Jose Mourinho took the job. Oh, Juan Mata's going to be diving for the nearest laundry basket to try and hide because he's going to get fired by Jose again. And in fact, he's turned into one of Manchester United's most important players. Yeah,
well, I agree with all of what you're saying. It just won't work if he comes back, because you can't put a square peg in a round hole. And he will be a square peg in a round hole.
No, I don't think he is. I think he's exactly what Man United needs. Exactly what the Premier League needs.
United haven't got enough good players to play around him.
We need a superstar in the Premier League. If the Premier League is going to be the greatest league in the world... And we don't have one right now.
Yeah, but United simply haven't got enough good players to play around him.
Well, guess what? If they get,
and he'll get very frustrated. I'm not getting the right service. We'll have tantrums on the pitch. We'll have him bust-ups in the dressing room with his teammates. It won't work.
It will.
Believe me, United fans. It sounds like a great idea, but it will not work.
I mean, you've seen him playing for Portugal. You've seen him win the Euros with Portugal.
Yes.
You know, he wasn't surrounded by brilliant players at Portugal. Yeah, he was surrounded by okay players at Portugal.
He wasn't playing against brilliant teams. That's the point.
Well,
Club teams are much, much better than international teams these days.
Disagree.
We all know that.
I totally disagree with that as well. Got a few tweets here. Funny that people that think Ronaldo returning is a bad idea are fans of rival teams, says Damon. I wonder why. Pure fear and jealousy.
No, I don't think there's any fear and jealousy there. My point of view is that unless the landscape is perfect for Ronaldo, you don't get a perfect Ronaldo, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, but I think an imperfect Ronaldo would still be a pretty good player to play in the Premier League.
Well, believe it or not, I think an imperfect Ronaldo could, with the wrong manager, and Jose might be the wrong manager because they've fallen out before, cause problems.
Well, let's find out from somebody who knows about these things, a man who is indeed an expert on all things that happen around Madrid, and that is, of course, Graham Hunter. Graham, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Michaels.
Yeah, hi, Graham.
Now, what is going on here? This all ranges from, I suppose, the suspicious-minded people saying, Ronaldo just wants Real Madrid to cough up the money, to, he just wants a bit more in his pay packet. Does he really want to leave? Is he really upset?
Yeah, the first thing to say is that long prior to the tax demand or tax accusation, 14.7 million euros, Ronaldo has been making clear to ex-teammates at United that nothing at Real Madrid in terms of the club, the infrastructure, the protection for the stars, the way in which the mood and the behaviour of the club is structured, nothing compares to his time at Manchester United, and he still laments that. This has been a feeling he's had in his bad times at Madrid and in his good times. It's worth stressing that he was not only feeling this, but expressing this to ex-teammates before the tax demand came in. So you're dealing with a minimum of two levels to this. One, the camel's back was ready to have a straw that broke it. The tax demand may have been that straw, and maybe now they want to bully or blackmail Real Madrid into paying what would a hypothetical penalty, because remember, this is an ongoing, there's an accusation, there's a demand, there isn't a proof of guilt. The sum that's been quoted is usually in Spain, not even if one is found guilty, is not the sum that you end up paying. So on the tax case, one, there are specialists on tax in Spain better than me, and two, that's ongoing. The thing that you both pinpointed and is true is that Ronaldo still doesn't fantasize, but he recalls being protected by Manchester United as a club, Sir Alex Ferguson as a manager, in a way that he still feels a loss. He still laments. And his expression to people who know him well is that if Manchester United were relocated, if they were in a sunny climate, they would still be his ideal club. But when he says that indicates, and you both pointed out, that one, he doesn't fancy the latter years of his career in a sort of grey, rainy climate. Sorry, Manchester, but I suspect that's a reasonable description of how things go there. And secondly, you pointed out that not only did he and Jose Mourinho fall out, Mourinho then went out and spoke pretty scathingly. The phrase that comes back to me time and time again is that at the worst point in the relationship, Ronaldo and Mourinho said, "I trained the real Ronaldo." Well, he's slagging off not only somebody who's a fellow client of George Mendes, but somebody who actively wants to be considered the best player of all time. You might or might not vote for that. So put him down in public like that is something that you shouldn't do if you think you might have a future relationship with a great footballer.
Sure, absolutely. But Graham, at the end of the day, does he want to leave, or is this is it a clever manipulation again by his agents and his people? I mean, for instance, he would like, I believe, Real Madrid to pay off the tax bill and then everything would be okay. Because in his mind, it was all the advice from his agents, his accountant, in association with talking to Real Madrid, which led him to believe he was being a thoroughly decent chap and paying all his taxes. So why should he now pay this extra tax burden?
The point I make is that they're fighting the tax. There isn't yet tax to pay. There's an accusation, there's a demand. It's a very serious case. If it were found against him, it might carry either a notional jail penalty or an actual jail penalty. These are serious issues. My point is, him saying you must pay this would be, it's jumping far ahead of, number one, what his mood is. His mood was, I've had enough. This leak from Portugal about I want out is a decision that he took, and it is separate to the tax accusations. If the tax accusations were to be proven, would the world's greatest player, if you want to call him that, I think Messi is, but the Ballon d'Or and the Champions League and La Liga this season suggest that Ronaldo can claim that title temporarily. Would he use it to say to the club, right, you pay it for me? Yes, of course he would. And I suspect many of us might think similarly, whether we're sympathetic to him today or not. In his position, many of us might use the same tactic. All I want to emphasise to you, and I'm sincere about this, is that what Cristiano Ronaldo feels right now about Real Madrid is over and above and separate to any tax accusations. That's absolute fact. And this idea that he wants to leave is something that, again, is separate to tax, and at the moment means it's legitimate for Paris Saint-Germain or for Arsenal or Inter Milan or indeed Manchester United to try and buy him, because the time has never been more fertile.
Well, that's the second part of the question, really, isn't it? If indeed he does want to leave, and it sounds from what you're saying as though he does, because in a way he's really accomplished everything he can accomplish at Real Madrid. There's not much else he can really do. The question, I suppose, really then is that would he prefer to go to Paris, where he's got access to the mainland of Europe and he can do all the sunbathing he wants to do if that's his thing, rather than coming back to the Premier League?
You've played me at my own game by mentioning the weather there. I take that. Although Parisian winters aren't all that great. In any assessment that you'll continue to do in talkSPORT, I'm certain during the transfer market, about where Cristiano Ronaldo might go. Clearly, your audience is smart enough to know it. Have they got the budget, first of all, because it'll cost over 100 million. And don't believe any nonsense about 400 million, any of that rubbish, or the buyout clause of €1 billion. If Madrid accepts selling him, it'll be a price that'll be a world record, but within the reach of several of the petrodollar clubs. The second thing to say is, do not misjudge him. For all his fits of pique, for all the way in which he's described as spoiled, which I don't think he is, the absolute fundamental thing to realise and understand about Cristiano Ronaldo is he wants to continue winning the Champions League and he wants to continue winning the Ballon d'Or. That will drive him, and in my opinion, that will prevent him going to either Major League Soccer until he's 36, 37, or to China in the short term, where apparently the money is just about endless, although the tax bills are just about as high. Whatever he does, whether it's find a way to sort things out at Madrid, move to Paris, Manchester, Milan, wherever it is, or London, the fact remains he will be primarily driven by a brilliant wage, but those two things, a chance to win the Champions League and a chance to continuing Ballon d'Or, because they motivate him. That's what drives him. Those three things: big salary, recognition as the best in the world, and the Champions League and the Ballon d'Or. Any other contender that puts themselves in the race will, in my opinion, will lose.
Right. Interesting stuff. Graham, thank you very much.
Thanks very much indeed.
Graham Hunter, the man who knows all there is to know about Madrid and the goings-on there with Ronaldo. He seems to think he wants out. Whether he comes to the Premier League or not is another matter. He may end up going to PSG, but he definitely wants, Porky, I think, to go to a club and reinvigorate the club and say, look, I personally, single-handedly got you the Champions League.
OK, now Graham put all those points out, laid him out beautifully. Yeah. So if he comes back to Manchester United, he's taken a gamble. He can revive an ailing Manchester United team in 2 years.
I think he could.
Because that's about what he's got left, right?
I think so.
If he goes to Paris Saint-Germain, he won't be reviving an ailing team that's been great in the past. He'll be inventing a new super team in Europe, and that might appeal to him. He might want that statue to be built of him outside the Stade de France, or
and it is more of a continental type scenario, isn't it?
Continental type scenario, but also he will be bigger in Paris by comparison than even he would be in Manchester. With Manchester United.
I think that's really hard to believe.
Well, no, he is, because he's bigger than the club, but he's not bigger than Manchester United.
He is. At this moment in time, he is bigger than absolutely anything in football. And we want to hear from you. 08717 22 3344. I think the Premier League needs to get involved and make sure that if Ronaldo leaves Real Madrid, he comes to this country. This is talkSPORT. We are the two mics. We're about to take some calls very shortly on the whole principle of whether Ronaldo wants to come to the Premier League, and if he does, whether the Premier League should actually do something about getting him here. 08717 22 3344. A quick couple of tweets, though. One from Neil, who's had a look at that picture of you and Ian Poulter.
Yes.
He says, Porky might have blagged his way to some freebie Callaway clubs, but they didn't give him a bag to carry them in.
No, they did.
You've got this little pencil-thin Louis Vuitton bag.
Yeah. But on the day, of course, I just decided, well, I'll just take a a few select clubs, because I was hoping not to overburden, my golfing partner in pool two with having to tell me which clubs to use. It was quite as simple as that.
David says this, I think Porky looks like you should be working on the fun fair wearing those hideous shorts.
Oh, that's nice, isn't it? Yeah, well, that's called fashion, mate, golf fashion. You wouldn't know anything about it. The clubs that... golf club, that you go to, where you play, don't admire that sort of thing.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk to Patrick, who's a Liverpool fan. Patrick, very good morning to you.
Good morning, the two mates.
Yeah. What would you like to say, Patrick? Should Ronaldo come back to Manchester?
Well, MG, I have to 100% support you and say, yes, it's a no-brainer.
Exactly.
I mean, as a Liverpool fan, I wouldn't want to see him come back because, obviously... I mean, this guy has guaranteed you 25 goals. He's the difference between Man United finishing in the top four and then actually winning the league.
Yes. Well, I got a tweet here from a guy called Scott Patrick who says, an old Zlatan got 28 goals in a largely misfiring forward line. Imagine what Ronaldo would get. I mean, he might get a lot more than 25.
Oh, minimum, he's guaranteed you 25 goals. If United got 25 goals last season, they probably would have won the league.
Yeah, but Patrick, do you think Manchester United are a contender for the Champions League title?
With Ronaldo, they are.
No, they're not. Do you think, Patrick? Do you think that one man, Ronaldo, in being injected into that team, will turn Manchester United into second or third favourite for the Champions League?
Definitely.
Rubbish. Utter nonsense. There's not enough good players at Manchester United.
Ronaldo only needs fed the ball. If you give him the ball,
he does. Yeah, he does need feeding the ball by talented and skilled players who've played with him for a number of years, and people like Gareth Bale to be balancing up, his genius.
Gareth Bale.
Porky, are you trying to tell me that there's no players in the Man United team at the minute who can't feed Ronaldo the ball?
Yeah. What about Juan Mata?
Who are they?
Juan Mata for one.
Yeah. Who Jose didn't fancy at Chelsea.
Yeah, but now loves.
Well, does he? Who says he loves him? Who says he loves him?
Well, he's one of Manchester United's best players now, isn't he, Patrick?
Yeah, he did. I mean, he definitely is. There's 2 or 3 United players who have absolutely went above and beyond. I mean, talk about Ronaldo and Marcus Rashford playing up front.
Yeah.
And
what about Anthony Martial feeding him some great balls?
A complete mismatch that would be. And what about his relationship with Jose? That wasn't good towards the last 3 months or 4 months that they were together at the Burnout. How's that going to be repairing itself with two giant egos?
Porky, do you really think that if Man United spend over 100 million on Ronaldo, they're going to care what the relationship is between the manager?
Yeah, of course they are, because it's a vital relationship in any football club. You know that, Patrick. You cannot dismiss that.
Incorrect.
You're fooling yourself.
No.
You're fooling your own
Patrick,
mind.
I'm terribly sorry that Porky's been so rude to you, but thank you so much for calling in. I think your point is very, very valid, and I think it's a great point that you made. Let's talk to Ian, who's an Arsenal fan. Hello, Ian.
Hi there.
Yeah.
Mr. Parry Esquire.
Yes.
The man with knowledge.
Yes.
Yes. You're the man, Mr. Parry.
Thank you.
Because you've sussed out that the guy is a burst of speed, then he walks to the place for his next pass. A burst of speed, he walks to the place for his next pass that he knows he's going to get because his brain's quicker. He knows he's going to receive that pass because he's always in a good position.
Yeah.
He likes football, but he likes warmth.
Yeah.
He will not go to Man United.
Yes.
And Mr. Parry stole my other point, and he's right again, as he always is.
Are you saying Porky's always right? Is that what you're telling me, Ian?
Yes.
Yes.
But see, this is where I worry about your argument.
Hang on, let's hear your second point, please, Ian, yeah.
And my other point is, you stole my thunder there, Mr. Parry. I've got to put you down a wee bit for that.
Yeah.
But in the end, you're still the best. The second point is...
Steady.
Two great, massive egos cannot collide.
Exactly.
And the most important two players in any club are the manager and the best player.
Yes.
Yeah, but Ian, don't you think my point about Juan Mata is a valid one?
No.
Because Juan Mata fell out with Jose Mourinho to such an extent that Mourinho,
it's a strange
despite the fact that he was the second, for 2 years in a row, he was Chelsea's Player of the Year. Jose came into Chelsea, got rid of him immediately, right? Clearly didn't like the guy. Everyone said when he goes to Manchester United, the first thing he's going to do is get rid of Juan Mata. He didn't get rid of Juan Mata. Instead, he realised that he was an important part of the club and he got along with him. And that's what happens in football, because everyone's got an ego in football, but they just have to deal with it.
Yeah, but Ian realises, and Ian, I'm talking about you now, you realise that at Real Madrid, the best player, when he's as good as Ronaldo, can have a direct relationship with El Presidente. But at Manchester United, there is no El Presidente to go to. Sorry, what are you laughing at?
Yeah. You see, I think Ian's just joking.
The other thing is, Man United are a working process. He doesn't want to go to a working process.
Exactly.
He wants to go to
the real deal.
The ground running team like Paris Saint-Germain that he would put in the final jigsaw puzzle.
Yes,
I think you've got it all a bit mixed up here.
I think he's got it absolutely
right.
I
think he absolutely wants to go
thank him for his call.
A team that is a work in progress, so that he can then make them into the champions that he believes he can turn them into.
Well, nah.
And how long have you been suffering from this delusional disease of yours that you think everything Porky says is right? How long have you had this problem?
Well, I think it's as long as my humble demeanour has been myself. I identify Mr. Parry as... No, I'm totally opposite. But he speaks a lot of truth, this guy. He knows his job.
Of course I do. Yes, thank you very much indeed, Ian. You are the silent majority of millions.
No, actually it's not. It's the minority of one.
Mike Graham there just can't accept it. But Ian, thank you very much indeed. We really appreciate your call. We need more people like you to call in.
Well, there won't be any more of them. Don't worry about it. Here's Ryan, who says, why should the Premier League help bring Ronaldo to Manchester United?
I can't get
That's not their job at all.
Well, you're talking
and why
about
should the Premier League clubs stand for that? Because the whole point about the Premier League, right, is that it sells itself around the world, right? Now, what better weapon to use to sell yourself around the world than to say, look who's playing in the Premier League next season. Look who's coming now. It's Ronaldo, only the greatest player in the world.
How do you expect them to influence that?
Well, because I think they influence it by making sure that their people go and see Ronaldo's people and make it very clear to them that he will have the best deal, that he will have the best time, and that he will have the happiest life.
Premier League don't have any control over an individual football club.
It's time that they should have.
Well, they don't.
Because
this is cloud cooking
this is why your business sense is out the window and you never make any money in business, because you don't understand it.
No.
If you're selling something to someone, you have to take a massive part and play a massive role in making sure that person comes to work for your company.
But you can't.
The Premier League employs basically all the footballers in the Premier League through different organisations. Called football clubs, right?
No.
But if there weren't any decent footballers in each of those football clubs, they'd have nothing to sell.
No, I'm saying, honestly, this is pie in the sky.
No, it isn't.
I'm afraid your understanding of the mechanic of the football industry in this country is wayward.
No, it's not.
It
makes perfect sense. Anyone listening to me will know that I'm making perfect sense. Patrick says this. Porky is deluded. He's just scared that Everton won't get into the top four. Ask Porky, would he want Ronaldo at his club?
No, I wouldn't.
You don't want Ronaldo at Everton?
Wherever Ronaldo goes next, it's a short-term fix.
Well, so
it's
that
2
proves
years.
that you've lost the plot.
No, I haven't lost the plot
You've
at all.
lost the plot.
And I see Everton now with the purchasing policy within this transfer window coming up being completely on the right track, investing for the near, middle and long-term future.
You're talking absolute nonsense. You won't be doing any lawn mowing today, though, would you?
We won't be doing any lawn mowing, but no matter how hot it gets, right, I have to have my house cleaning lady to come in. My
how often does your
housekeeper.
Cleaning lady come in?
Twice a week. Twice a week. Unless
twice a week?
Yeah.
You don't need it twice a week.
Well, at the moment, I do, because the plants have to be watered in the roof garden. And
why can't you water your own plants?
Well, I find it stressful, on the muscles, and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
You've got a roof now.
So young people starting their work in life, maybe coming out of university and all that. So they tend to occupy, have multi-occupation of homes, big houses, that sort of stuff, okay?
Yeah.
And they all... We would never have thought of that.
Especially if you live in a big flat or a big house, which needs quite a bit of cleaning.
Sure. But we'd never have thought of that in my day, because, we didn't have cleaners. Cleaners weren't around.
But I think we would have thought of it. The reason that it's happening now so much is because there are so many more cleaners about. I mean, when I first moved back to London and I wanted to get a cleaner, I couldn't find one. Do you know why? Yeah. Because I kept calling up these companies that were supposedly, rent out cleaners, right? Yeah. And they wanted you to sign a contract with them.
Yes.
They wanted them to come about once every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Minimum. They wanted them to also spend a minimum of 3 hours every time they came.
Care and attention to the property.
But I mean, does she have any of the other jobs to do apart from working for you?
Oh, yeah, she has quite a lot of clients.
What else does she do?
Well, she has other clients.
Well, so she's not really your housekeeper then?
Of course she is.
No, so she's just a hired hand.
No.
See, this is another falsehood from you. You've made out that you've got this housekeeper who looks after you.
That's right.
You send her up to fix the aerial on the roof.
Sure.
You send her out to buy wine for you.
Yeah, that's right.
You make her do all sorts of ridiculous things. But it turns out, actually, she doesn't really work for you at all. You just pay her to clean.
No, not at all. Her other job is fixing broken porcelain.
Huh?
She fixes broken porcelain. Sorry, what's wrong with that?
Well, why? How much broken porcelain is there in your place?
No, not in my
like
place.
A great restaurant?
No, not in my place. She works in a business that specialises in fixing broken
What
porcelain.
do you mean fixing? That's rubbish.
She is an expert.
She's told you.
No, she's an expert in fixing broken porcelain.
Why would you even bother having it fixed?
Because people drop things and they go, "Oh, that's my favourite vase given to me by Auntie Violet." And when she next visits, what am I going to do? No, you put it together again.
Rubbish.
And all that kind of stuff, right?
Is she a fantasist as well, this woman?
No, you idiot. Now then, the point you've just made is true. There's going to be a huge demand for cleaners. According to this report, demand for regular home cleaners has grown by 25% in just the past 3 years, OK?
Yeah.
Most of the demand comes from young professionals, and of that demand, most demand is for people living in 1 or 2 bedroom properties.
Yeah.
So our colleague here, who lives in a 6-bedroom property, right?
Right.
He is amongst another growing set of people, growing group of people in society who need these cleaners.
Yeah.
Now you see, this proves what I've always said.
I mean, everybody needs a cleaner, really, at the end of the day, because as much as it might seem like a bit of a luxury, if you're living in London, you tend not to have an awful lot of time, and actually, for the sharing of the price, it's actually quicker and cheaper for them to do it than for you to do it.
It is. 4 in 10 of people aged between 25 to 34 employ a cleaner.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or is looking for one because they can't find a cleaner because of the demand.
Exactly.
Now, this, you see, proves what I've been trying to say to you for years, but you don't understand. I have an economic plan which, if put into practice, would solve all the world's economic problems.
Well, why haven't you put it into practice?
Well, because nobody's actually taken it on yet, foolishly. But part of my plan is called trickle-down economics.
Yes.
Now, what we do is we have young professionals earning money. What do they do with their money? They start to employ cleaners so that they can go out and spend some of their money in bars. That's called trickle-down economics.
Yeah, OK. It's a bit simplistic, isn't it?
No, it's not, because they're passing
really
money
like
onto the profession of cleaners, which is now growing, and growth is what you need in an economy. They take the time that the cleaner is cleaning, they get out to a few local boozers and wine bars and start spending money across the bar.
Your trickle-down economics seems to involve a lot of drinking.
Well, yeah, that's right. That in itself creates drive and energy and growth, and that's the way the economy should work, OK?
Well, why not just have all the people who don't have a house take a house from somebody who's got a spare house, like Jeremy Corbyn says you should do?
Well, that's a bit harsh, I'd say. I mean, what I find actually amazing about that is that area of London is very, very close to what you would call a lovey area, where there are
Notting Hill.
Yes, and 1,000 people who've got huge houses with hundreds of spare bedrooms, and I'm yet to read in any of our national newspapers
offering spots.
These lovey type people who step forward on every occasion, express their political views. How many of them have literally opened the door and said to displaced families, come in, I've got 4 spare bedrooms?
Yeah, it is a good question. A couple of tweets for you. Sean says this: an owner wouldn't be allowed to buy a Premier League club while under investigation for tax. Therefore, should Ronaldo be allowed to come? Well, as you heard from Graham Hunter, they haven't yet actually presented him with a bill.
That's right.
They're just suggesting that he might owe them some money. So we shall see. I'm not sure what Simon means by this. He might be making fun of me, but he says, MG, as a person with a proven track record in sports in China, you're spot on. What do you think he means by that?
The proven track record in sports in China, you're spot on. Spot on with what? Well, and what is the proven track record you've got in China?
Well, that's a very good point.
I'd like to know a bit more about this.
And Ray says, I think the Premier League should help Manchester City get Messi by your dumb logic. Well, actually, Ray, that's not a very stupid idea. Because if the Premier League actually managed to secure the services of both Ronaldo and Messi, then they could absolutely and quite honestly call themselves the greatest league in the world.
Well, they could. And there's a text here because, you've been pointing people in the wrong direction again. Hi, lads. Will Porky hold the ladder for the housekeeper while she's repointing the chimney above Porky's house? There is no chimney.
Really?
The reason she had to go up on the roof once was during a snowstorm when
There's no time for this story.
I used to have a satellite dish.
There's no time.
And the snow interfered with the signal. So she got up there with a brush and brushed it off.
There's no time for any more of your drivel. This is talkSPORT. A couple of tweets have come in on your subject of your trickle-down economics, by the way. Here's one from David who says, Porky thinks if everyone's drinking, the economy will somehow boom. Here's one from Bear who says, trickle-down economics involves a lot of beer. I wonder if Adam Smith wrote Wealth of Nations in Wetherspoons.
Yeah, but you see, people are belittling this and not really know what they're talking about. I mean, Adam Smith's book, The Wealth of Nations, was the original economic bulletin. It wasn't a book, it was a bulletin.
Treatise.
Which explained how free trade internationally could make nations wealthier, i.e. don't put tariffs on goods from individual countries and you'll find a lot more of it flows from side to side.
Yeah.
So that's why the word trickle-down economics became those who benefit from wealth, you know?
Well, the problem is, though, that Neil has also sent another tweet in from the money pages of CNN, in which the IMF have finally admitted that actually trickle-down economics is a complete and utter waste of time.
Well, what's that got to
does
do
not
with it?
actually work. Well,
what does the IMF know about it?
The IMF is the International Monetary Fund.
That's right.
They are the people that basically go around the world fixing economies, right?
No, they don't.
And they've said that trickle-down economics as a theory is kaput.
The IMF come out with all sorts of economic theories, and they are just as debatable as any other.
No, that's not right.
Any other theory,
so you're holding yourself.
Any other economist.
So you're holding yourself up as an economist now, are you?
I'm holding myself up as an individual who says that ever since time immemorial, economists, professional economists, have debated about how to run an economy properly. There is no right way, there is no wrong way,
but there
is an efficient way.
There is a wrong way of running the economy, because we've got people running it right now who are running it the wrong way.
Yeah, no. What I'm saying is scientific theory says that, let's go Keynesian. No, let's not go Keynesian. Let's go Thatcherism.
Keynesian?
Let's go trickle down and all that kind of stuff. You just shut up for a minute.
Well, you've got to get the names right so that people can understand what you're talking about. Look, I know you're very hot. There's no need to be rude.
They understand exactly what I'm talking about. And the point is that now, of course, involves football, because football is probably one of the most successful, in fact, it may be the most successful business in the world.
But let's talk about how football does not actually operate on a trickle-down theory, because the money does not trickle down in football, does it? Because that's what we're always hearing about.
Yeah, it does.
Grassroots football doesn't have any money. Well, people at Sutton United, for example, weren't able to pay their goalkeeper to stay on long enough, so he had to go and do a sort of grubby deal with the newspaper to try and make a bit of money during the FA Cup.
That's a bit harsh, but you're wrong about that, because although trickle-down economics may not trickle down money through the football leagues, as you're suggesting, it certainly trickles money down into society.
Are you sure?
Well, I mean, what do you think a car salesman in Stockbroker Belt, Surrey, would do without, the wealth of players from Arsenal, Chelsea?
Yeah, so they're all going to the Lamborghini
Spurs.
shop. No, they're all going to the Lamborghini shop to buy 10 Lamborghinis because they've got more money than sense.
That's right.
But how does that benefit the community at large?
Well, that's trickle-down economics, because first of all, you have to have salesmen in the car sales rooms to sell them the
very small
cars.
number of people.
Then you have to have people who actually service the cars.
Most of that money goes out of the country, remember, to Lamborghini.
But we're an international society. We have been for a very long time.
I see.
And then you've got to have people who build the cars, the Lamborghini cars.
In Italy.
But you've got to remember, an awful lot of cars are built in this country, but
it's not helping Stockbroker Belt, Surrey.
It's helping people in the areas where the cars are built. So a lot of cars like Range Rovers and Jaguars are built on Merseyside, right? So that's not Stockbroker Belt, Surrey.
No.
It's a different sort of community altogether, but people there building those cars
must be why the economy of Merseyside is doing so well, then.
The economy of Merseyside's not doing badly at all,
really?
And I get very irritated with people who try to make out that, it's a deprived and forlorn area. It's not. It's a vibrant and expansive part of this country,
really?
And will continue to expand because of investment there.
Here's what, it's all very well you sort of banging away about this kind of theory that's all going on in between your ears. Here are the facts. The researchers calculated that when the richest 20% of society increase their income by 1 percentage point, the annual rate of growth shrinks by nearly 0.1% within 5 years.
Whose mad theory is that?
This is the International Monetary Fund speaking.
Well, I'm fed up with talking
When
about
the lowest 20% of earners see their income grow by 1 percentage point, however, the rate of growth actually increases by nearly 0.4% over the same period. So what you need to do is actually pay people who are not making much money more, and then that way the economy improves. You don't have to rely on the largesse of people like you who walk around handing money out to people who you see as less fortunate than yourself.
No, I don't. I don't hand out money to people. I think it's terrible to... in fact, funnily enough, there was some chap who was begging outside a railway station I passed only yesterday.
Yes.
And he had a little cardboard board saying, I will do gardening, decorating, driving, and listed all these things he could do.
Right.
But he was sitting on a pavement, looking filthy, with a grubby...
Well, he's offering to work for money.
Yeah.
He's offering to work for money. What's wrong with that?
Well, go to the labour exchange then, because I'm not going to rescue you from a pavement where you've been sleeping for 2 or 3 days. You're, lice-ridden individual, probably, without being offensive. And
well, thank goodness you're not being offensive.
Well, no, but I mean...
You really are a hideous creature, aren't you?
No, people who
Ghastly
live on...
figure of a man.
Hang on, people who live on pavements are not exactly the sort of people...
He's not living there because he wants to.
You would like to invite into your home to decorate your bathroom,
perhaps he could help your cleaner to fix some porcelain.
What I'm saying is, there are... I mean, funny enough, ironically, 80-odd yards further on as I walked, there was an advert for bar people in a hostelry.
Yeah.
So, I would have thought it'd be easy enough to get up there and say, look, I'm awfully sorry I look like this, but if you wouldn't mind me using your shower, I can brighten myself up, and I would love to take the job as the bar person.
Really?
That would then be a bit of initiative, not sitting around on a pavement all day asking for money.
Or maybe you could help the guy out by offering him a piece of advice when he's not
maybe I should.
it.
Now, here's another way in which football can be expansive, right?
Yeah.
Now, you've heard of Madonna.
I have heard of Madonna, yeah.
In fact, we worked through our American years dominated by Madonna, really, in a sense.
I've got a feeling she shares my birthday, actually. I'm not sure if that's true, yeah.
Oh, it might be true.
She's a little bit older than me, though.
A little bit older, yeah. Now then, the point is, again, I think this is great. We've all heard about soccer moms, in America, haven't we?
And this country as well.
And in this country as well. Now, one of her adopted sons has shown a talent in football to the extent where he has been offered some position at Benfica as a youth player, okay?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I think
what sort of age is he?
I think he's about 14.
Okay.
And so, as a result of this, the 58-year-old singer is planning to uproot her family from their New York home, which is substantial.
I'm sure it is.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
And relocate 3,300 miles to Portugal so that her adopted son, David Banda, can play in the junior squad of the famous Portuguese club Benfica.
Okay.
Now, it is said, although we have no concrete evidence, that Madonna has already bought a spectacular £5 million palace in the rolling hills outside Lisbon is planning to enrol her younger children at the city's exclusive £30,000 a year French lycée school.
Oh, sure, they'll be very happy there.
Yeah, a spokesman said, David, this is not a spokesman for Madonna, it's a spokesman for all things Portuguese.
Yes.
David recently spent a week at Benfica and his prodigious talents impressed everyone.
Right.
The 11-year-old Malawi-born boy was adopted in 2006.
Oh, yes.
Madonna is determined to give her kids every opportunity in life, and this one is too good to pass up.
Well, I think that's very good of her.
I mean, it's an incredible commitment.
Yes, well,
incredible commitment.
It is, but that's the luxury of being that wealthy. You can basically do whatever you like. You can go live wherever you want. You can put your kids in whatever school you want to put them in.
I agree.
You've got enough money to basically buy up whatever land you want to go and live on, so that you're not going to be, bothered by anybody.
That's right.
And good for her, is what I say.
I tell you what,
a lot of people give her a hard time.
£5 million house in the hills surrounding Lisboa must be quite a property because, I mean...
I'm sure it is.
Portugal is not the most expensive real estate in the world, although parts of it in the Algarve can be,
parts of it can be, yeah.
But nevertheless...
I mean, I know a guy that lives down the Algarve. He paid £10,000 for a palm tree.
For a palm tree?
Yeah.
What, to put in his front garden?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's quite expensive.
He had to get it shipped in from North Africa.
I think you have to say this is great parenting skills from Madonna because she's decided, well, if the boy wants... when you read about the way Judy Murray spent years and years as a tennis mom, so to speak, driving Andy round to tournaments making sacrifices and all that.
Slightly different scenario, that.
Slightly different, but I mean, what I'm saying is when parents actually commit their lives to helping their children achieve their dream, that's probably the best form of parenting. Something I hope you'll take notice of as the years roll on. Your children.
I had a very nice weekend with my kids,
youthhood. Yeah,
didn't do very much of anything. It was too hot.
Have I seen a picture of you in a swimming pool?
I very much doubt it.
Well, I think I have one. I think somebody sent me one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, who's taking a picture of me in a swimming pool?
Right, okay, folks, this is it. So, I'm on the go. I'm on the go.
Late. Look, there's no time
I'm on the go all weekend. He's
there's no time
sitting in a swimming pool with a glass in his hand. I can't stand it.
Incorrect.
I'm not having it.
Absolutely right. Now, Chris, the Leeds fan in Wakefield's got a good point to make. He says, yo, MG, did your space-blocking neighbour bother you this weekend? If he bothers you again, point him near Porky's direction and he'll bore him to death.
That's
a very
completely
good point.
Unnecessary.
Funnily enough, I didn't see him this weekend because I wasn't around in London.
No scratches on the car?
The car doesn't seem to have been scratched, but of course, no doubt when I go back today, what I will find is that somebody else has parked in the same space that he doesn't want me to park in. So
maybe he will have arranged that.
We shall see.
But I mean, what's he want? Somebody with a smaller car, so it doesn't disturb his view.
I don't know. He's on the first floor. It doesn't make any sense at all.
That man's a jerk.
Yeah, he really is a bit of an idiot. An absolute bit of an idiot. Now, you put out this picture of me. See you later, alligator.
That's right.
I don't know where you got it from.
Well, it was sent to me, and I have my sources in everything you do.
I'm not. Actually, I haven't got a drink in my hand, so that was a lie.
Oh, so where did you put it then? You put it on the side when you got into the pool?
No, I didn't have a drink.
So weren't you drinking at the time then?
Actually, yesterday, no, I wasn't.
You weren't?
No.
Oh, you weren't?
I didn't have a drink all day yesterday. No, it was too hot. I drank iced tea all day.
Iced tea?
Yeah.
Not a drop of alcohol?
Not a drop.
Well, funny enough, I didn't have a drink.
I don't believe you.
Either.
Well, you were in a pub.
No, I wasn't.
You were. You sent out a picture of some ice cream you were eating next to 2 pints. So where was that then?
I had 1 pint of shandy.
Oh, you said you didn't go drinking?
No, but that's not drinking.
Really? A pint of shandy's not drinking?
That's pop. But when you buy...
Is there alcohol in shandy?
when you buy
a
bottle of shandy off the back of the Corona Pop wagon, like the one I used to drive around and sold record numbers of bottles of lemonade.
You bought it off the back of a Corona Pop wagon? No, I didn't. What
I said is when you see a bottle of shandy on the back of a Corona Pop wagon used by children,
Used to buy children?
No, used by children. Corona Pop wagons are used by children to buy their pop. Their mum and dad buy their pop off the Corona Pop wagon.
It's not 1950s anymore.
And when they buy shandy,
you know that.
When they buy shandy, they are not buying alcohol because you have to be licensed to sell it. They're buying pop.
Yes.
And shandy is pop, and that's all I had yesterday.
Yeah, but you were in a pub, though.
No, I was in a restaurant having lunch. Is that okay?
Well, there were 2 pints of beer behind the ice cream. Listen, you were the one that sent the picture out. I don't point getting upset with me.
I'm not getting upset. They serve pints of beer in restaurants.
Do they?
Yes.
Really?
In Stockbroker. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's talk about International Football Association Board.
I agree.
IFAB, right? Yeah. Because they've got some great ideas for outlining a new...
Great ideas?
I think there are great ideas, yeah.
I think they're
included in some of the things they want to do, right? They want to be able to let a player being allowed to pass to himself at a free kick, a corner or a goal kick.
I mean, how daft
which I think is a great idea. Stadium clock which stops and starts along with the referee's watch, which is a bit like the NFL. When the ball goes out of play, the clock stops, right? Yes, and they want to reduce the length of time that a football match is played for from 45 minutes per half to half an hour.
Yeah, but it's not really, is it? Because they're stopping the clock every time the ball goes out. So that will be longer, not shorter. In American football, a game which is scheduled for an hour often goes on for 3. Do you agree?
Sometimes it goes for 4.
4, exactly. Thank you. Because every time they stop the clock, the action stops, but the fans just sit there, and time is immemorial.
But one of the reasons that happens is because they want to put more advertising into the game of football.
Exactly.
Because if it didn't actually have, moments where it stops, then basically, there wouldn't be any place to put the ads, and nobody would make any money.
That's right. Yeah. So is that what we're going to adopt in this country?
Because this is not about putting in adverts. No, this is not about putting in adverts into the game. This is about preventing time wasting, because they've worked out that time wasting is a massive problem in the game.
This is.
So what they're going to say to them is, if there's no action going on, then basically we will stop the clock. So you can take as long as you like to bring the ball back from the throw-in, but it's not going to help you.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good idea.
Well, I think it's full of all sorts of problems. I like the system we have at the moment. It's traditional. We've had it all our football watching lives, and I see no reason to tinker. What's this idiotic, you can play the ball to yourself at a free kick corner and all that kind of stuff?
I think, again, that's in an effort to stop the time wasting that goes on, because you know how often you'll see a player picks up the ball, puts it down on the corner flag, and then realises it's not quite on the right spot, moves it slightly, takes a step back, decides to move it again, and then waits until somebody runs towards him before kicking it, and then passes it to somebody short, they get it back. There's a lot of time wasting going on.
Yeah.
Whereas if the guy's allowed to kick it to himself, then he can just start running towards the goal with it.
Yeah.
I think that's a bad idea at all.
Well, can I tell you where the corner kick rule came from?
Where?
It came from an Everton player, right? Oh, yeah? Now, I can't exactly remember the year, but it was about the early 20s, and an Everton winger called Billy somebody. I believe it was Billy, but some historian will
I'm sure
correct
somebody
this.
can help us with a tweet on that.
Yeah, that's right. He took the ball to the corner, and traditionally the ball had always been launched over into the middle, and a guy like Dixie Dean would rise up above the defence and do what they used to call then the heading trick.
Who somebody said earlier was actually a far more talented player than Ronaldo, but that's for another time.
Who was that?
Dixie
Dean. It was a different era, and he scored a lot of goals, didn't he? But anyway, on this particular day, old Billy just put the ball down, and there were no defenders close in. They were all in the penalty area.
Right.
So he just sprinted towards the penalty. He did,
Right.
Literally, the first 2 defenders came to him, he dribbled around there, and he scored. Yeah. And the rest didn't know what to do.
I think that would make the game exciting.
Well, I think it probably would, actually. But after that, they introduced the rule that, you could only kick it once.
You had to pass it to someone.
Yeah, you had to pass it to somebody or only kick it once. But that's how it came about. In fact, Everton was such a forward-looking club in those days. The first time they were ever numbered shirts in a cup final was 1933, when Everton played Manchester City, beat them 3-0. Right. Dean, Steen and Dunn scored. Okay. And the numbers of the players...
Have you managed to turn this into a story about Everton?
Hang on, the numbers of the players were 1 to 24, because they're pivotal in this story.
Oh, I see.
So I don't understand about going back to this idea of, you can kick it to yourself,
Well, because that, as you quite rightly said, that was changed, wasn't it? So now you're not allowed to do it. In the same way that they're also saying, in order to save time, you should be able to take a goal kick while the ball is moving.
Yes.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that either.
But what does that mean then?
Well, it means that you don't have to pick the ball up and place it on the edge of the 6-yard box.
So somebody just kicks it to you and says, "Go on, Fred, take that." If your goalkeeper's name is Fred,
if your goalkeeper's name is Fred, he just kicks it up the field.
The other one, which
I quite like all this.
The other one, which I can kind of appreciate, is you get one kick at a penalty and that's it.
Yes, and nobody's allowed to encroach into the area.
Nobody is allowed to encroach into the area under any circumstances. Yeah. It's almost like a penalty shootout.
So if the goalie saves it, you can't hit it in on the rebound.
You can't hit it again.
Yeah.
And
I quite like that as well.
Yeah, well, I can see some benefit in that one because then you're not got, tons of players, invading the area and actually corrupting the whole one-off opportunity that a penalty kicker should have.
Should we get some calls on this? Should we see if anybody
definitely,
is on my side here? Because, you seem to be coming around to my way of thinking that some of this
I'm not.
would actually be good.
No, the problem is
the
people who always want to change the rules, and this is the International Football Association Board, just throw out all these things without thinking them all through. Some of them have some application, but a lot of them are ridiculous to impose upon the modern game.
Yeah, well, I definitely like the idea of shorter games, though. An hour instead of an hour and a half. I think that would definitely work.
I don't. Why would you want to take a quarter of an hour away from each half of each game?
Because it would ensure that there isn't any time wasting. That's what they're trying to stop, because there's an awful lot of time wasting that goes on.
Yeah.
And players would have to be much more proactive instead of sort of sitting about thinking, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll just waste some time walking around.
They say that match officials should be stricter on timekeeping, stopping their watch from a penalty being awarded to the spot kick being taken, from a goal being scored until the match resumes, from the kick-off, and from the signal of a substitution to play restarting. Well, substitutions...
Because that's all dead time.
Substitution's very dead time because everybody knows now that 30 seconds gets added on. So if you're trying to waste time and run the clock down, you substitute one after.
Are you trying to run the clock
minutes.
down, by the way?
No, I'm not trying to run the clock down.
Because we're getting late again.
Yeah, well, don't worry about that.
I'm worried about it.
This is quality discussion.
Is it? Okay, all right. This is talkSPORT. We are the two mics. Coming up a little bit later on, we're going to have another episode of Heroes and Villains. I'm going to give Porky a little stress test as well to see whether he's stressed out by all this heat.
I'm not stressed.
I hope not, because it could be very bad for your health. Right now, though, we're going to be talking about the new Churchill movie, because in the new movie, which stars Brian Cox as the great man himself, he's kind of painted not so much as a benevolent, brilliant, master politician, is he? He's painted as a kind of a bit of a drunken bully.
Well, that's the way it's described. In one review I read over the weekend, heavy drinking, black dog depressions, immediately before D-Day, depicted as a drunken bully, haunted by his past. I thought, we've got to get to the bottom of this. So that might have been one review I read, but I want to get down to the core of what it's all about. I thought there's only one man we can call.
Mr. Brian Viner.
Absolutely.
The creme de la creme. He is, of course, the Mail on Sunday's film critic. Let's find out what Brian makes of it. Brian, very good morning to you.
Good morning. Daily Mail's film critic.
Daily Mail, I beg your pardon. I have seen your works in the Mail on Sunday as well, though, haven't I?
You have a few years, some years ago.
Okay.
Usually a book review.
Yes, my apologies. So anyway, what do you make of this Churchill depiction? Is it good? Is it horrible? What is it?
I really disliked it. I hated it, actually. Like everybody else, I grew up knowing Churchill as the hero, the bulldog, the embodiment of the Blitz spirit. And I don't want to see a Churchill, especially if it's not very accurate. I certainly don't want to see Churchill depicted on the eve of D-Day, as in this movie, just racked with anxiety and sort of self-hatred and desperately wanting D-Day to be cancelled. And, it shows him basically on the edge of madness. I mean, what you see in this film is Churchill with sort of virtually with dementia. It's quite horrifying.
Well, you see, this is what the core of it's all about to me, Brian. Like you, I remember Winston Churchill's funeral when the cranes along the River Thames were bowing in tribute and this kind of stuff. My father talked about him, in terms of reverence, like he was a god and all that. And to this day, if you had a vote now amongst everybody in this country, Churchill will probably still come up as the greatest Briton ever. And even Piers Morgan, our old friend, was writing in his diary over the weekend about if he had, to bring back people from history for a great, dinner of the greats, Churchill would be at the top of his list. That's how he's held in our memory.
But is that accurate as well? Because that might be just as much over the top as the other way.
This is the point. I think what they have latched onto, the makers of this film, is I think during the Blitz, in 1940, the Battle of Britain, Churchill was very much the embodiment of defiance, and he was a great inspirational talker and all the rest of it. I think by 1944, from what I can gather, having done my own little bit of research, he was tired, but he was war weary and all those things, but he wasn't but he wasn't mad. He hadn't descended into dementia.
Yeah.
And there was a very good. I don't know if either of you saw the Netflix series The Crown. It was really brilliant. Yes. I thought. And so there was a portrayal of Churchill in that where, again, he was seen as rather fragile. But that was like another 8 years later. That was in the early 50s. I think, what this film, it concentrates very much on D-Day and the eve of D-Day, and Eisenhower is running the show, and Churchill is depicted as being very irate, and that he's been sort of pushed to one side. Now, there may be some truth in that, but it's absolutely categorically not true that Churchill didn't want D-Day to go ahead. That's what this film is saying, and this film is wrong, and so why make it? I just don't understand.
Yeah. And is it written from the point of view of a book that's being adapted? Has it been cobbled together from just some person's view of Churchill?
Yeah, well, the scriptwriter Alex von Tunzelmann is a journalist, I think, with The Guardian, who has probably alighted on a couple of lines in a Churchill biography. I mean, I don't know, this is a speculation, but, and has seen, that Churchill had great reservations and anxiety about D-Day, and that's true. And it is perfectly true that he was haunted by the spectre of Gallipoli in the First World War, that he was, and when thousands of Allied soldiers died. But
and he definitely wanted to go on a vessel, didn't he? He wanted to embark on a vessel across the Channel on D-Day. He wanted to be at the forefront of it all.
He did, and that's in the film, Mike, actually. And that is true. And the only way that, and that was obviously crazy. Yes, he wanted to go on HMS Belfast across the Channel and be with them. And the only way that he was talked out of that was when the King said, "Well, that's absolutely marvellous, I'll come with you." Yeah, exactly. And Churchill said, "Well, you can't come, you're the King, we can't lose you." And the King said, "Well, we can't lose you either, mate. If I'm not going, then you're not going." And that's sort of how they managed to talk him out of it. But so that is in the film, and there is there's a lot of accuracy, I think, in that.
The thing is, Brian, this isn't new, is it? British history being corrupted by filmmakers is not new. And in fact, even Braveheart, right, was said to be a total corruption of the relationship between England and Scotland and the Scottish people. So are there any rules within the cinematic industry when history gets so badly corrupted as to, portray things that didn't happen, untruths?
Well, not really. I mean, it's called revisionism. There's a smart intellectual word for it, which is revisionism, and you can, under that tag, you can say almost anything, as you can in books, as you can in plays, not just the movies. But I suppose the movies tend to reach a bigger audience. So you can say anything, you can do anything, but all you can rely on from the point of view of the audience is critics such as me saying, don't go and see this film because it's a distortion of the fact.
And also, despite what we've said about the fact that he's often still rated as the world as Britain, one of the greatest Britons ever. I mean, anyone youngish, I don't think is going to want to go and see this film anyway, are they? Because it's so kind of removed from their reality.
No, I wouldn't have thought so. I think it's very much for those who, I mean, unlike Mike, I'm not quite old enough to remember Churchill's funeral.
Of course not.
Excuse me.
Nobody's that old.
I was very young at the time. Yeah,
of course you were. Yeah.
I've got a great memory going back a long way. Yeah,
from your crib. Yeah, but of course, I've grown up like every British person of my generation. You grow up with history, and maybe at times that the pendulum has swung too far the other way, and perhaps Churchill, his flaws and foibles have been slightly airbrushed by history. Sure. Maybe there's some truth in that.
Well, because we do always hear about what his appetite for whiskey was and how great that was, and I've often wondered, if a guy's drinking a bottle of scotch before he's making decisions about going to war, that might not be the greatest thing that's ever happened,
Possibly not, and his black dog depression, that's fact, and but nevertheless, he was. You and I both know, he was an absolutely great Englishman, and
a leader.
We don't want to see. We don't want to see him depicted in this. Where there's also a scene in it where Miranda Richardson plays his wife Clemmy, and she at one point she just goes up and slaps him. Again, has no historical basis in fact, apparently, but she slaps him just to get out of this kind of tantrum that he's throwing, like a sort of toddler. And it's very uncomfortable viewing, but not in a good way.
And how did Brian Cox perform? Obviously he may not have any view on it. He just got to play Churchill according to the script. How did he do?
The scripts, well, he did very well. I mean, he's a very good actor, of course. and he does a very good job. I mean, I said in the paper on Friday that, you know, and I'm speaking, of course, as a non-actor, and I've never acted really, and but I would suggest that actually Churchill is probably not that difficult a character to play for a very good actor.
Sure.
You know, there are so many mannerisms, and you know, once you've stuck that hat on your head and got into your siren suit and got a fat cigar between your fingers, you know, and a few of the mannerisms, I mean, you've got Churchill. You know,
that's right. Yeah, just put a Gatling gun in one hand,
I don't drink
a cigar in the other. You know, we'll fight them on the beaches.
And your V for victory sign, and you know, a growly voice, and you're there. But you know, that's a bit simplistic. But with this year alone, we had a guy playing in the Crown, John Lithgow, the great American actor. And later this year we've got Gary Oldman playing Churchill in Darkest Hour. So you know, so many people have played him, but I can't think of another portrayal that's as much of a sort of calumny as this one.
Sure.
Okay,
well, Brian, thanks very much indeed.
Well, thank you for giving us your verdict,
That's
and
right.
I'm sure we'll be talking to you again. Brian, of course, who is the film critic of the Daily Mail.
Of the Daily Mail.
Formerly of the Mail on Sunday.
Yeah, but of the Daily Mail now.
But of the Daily Mail now. Got a tweet here from Alan who says it's the 43rd anniversary of the Cruyff turn.
Yeah,
Did you know that?
Yeah, I've seen a pic, and I'm watching a picture of it now. I mean, it's so sensational, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It left talk about leaving a defender on his backside.
Yeah.
It just left him floored.
Did you remember? Did you do that as well? Because after seeing that, I learned how to do it, and I used to do it.
No, I didn't actually.
Did you not?
No, I was a midfield general. I wasn't really an attacking sort of.
Well, so what? You never had to go round anybody.
Yeah, I did have to go round people, but I used to push the ball.
You'd be
past
a bit
them.
slow, I would imagine.
No, I'd push the ball past them and sprint round them.
Really?
Yeah.
So kick and rush.
My favourite trick was to draw two defenders towards me as I'm going forward, and then, because I was smarter than the average bear, I would then push the ball between the two of them.
Yeah.
They'd look at each other as to who's going to run after that, but by the time they'd decided, I'd rush through.
Not very bright, the teams you were playing, were they?
No, they weren't. No, I'd rush through and I'd made it.
Really?
Now,
let's talk to Joe, who's a Man United fan in High at Wycombe. He agrees with me that it's a great idea to make the game shorter. Right. Joe, very good morning to you.
Yeah, good one. I'm busy laughing at Mike Parry, midfield general.
Yes, that's right, yes.
I keep thinking of the short, fat bloke in Hogan's Heroes.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Or Napoleon or somebody with his arm in a sling. You know?
Why don't we stop wasting time, Joe, and talk football? Okay.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, I heard about this proposal about a week ago, and it's from IFAB, and I think it's a good idea because, quite simply, we're not dealing with professional footballers. We're dealing with professional cheats.
Yes.
So whatever we can do to negate their cheating has got to help. So, personally, I think it's a great idea. I mean, it probably has to be refined in some places. But in principle, great. I want to see football. I don't want to see players feigning injury, players wasting time by taking a goal kick, or throw-ins, all that nonsense. I want to see the game being played. And I'll go back to this statement. We are not dealing with professional footballers. We are dealing with professional cheats on a constant basis, and we have to implement ways of negating all this cheating by these people.
I think you're absolutely right.
It's worth a go. It's worth a go.
I think it is. And funnily enough, a lot of people are tweeting me saying, "Oh, yeah, but how's it going to stop time wasting?" Well, fairly obviously, if you understand that when the ball goes out of play, the clock is going to be stopped. It doesn't matter how long you take to bring it back. That's not going to help you waste any time. You're going to stop doing it, aren't you?
Absolutely. It makes sense. The ball goes out, clock is stopped, and that player feigning injury can take as long as he likes. Feigning injury. It makes no difference. We're still going to get... Now, what they probably have to do is average out how long they actually play. They've got to find out, what is the true length of the game. Is it 60 minutes? Is it 65? Is it 70 minutes? But, for at least 10, 15, maybe up to 20 minutes during a game, they are just wasting time.
Yeah, but Joe, I think it makes the game too clinical then. I think if you put too many rules and regulations in the place of football, it makes it too robotic. I mean, at the moment, some players use a bit of intelligence, a bit of thought, a bit of a way not to influence the game through their own guile, and that's good. And we shouldn't have, a strict, start now, stop now, do this, do that.
Mike,
go on.
It's not guile they're using. They're using cheating. No,
they're not. They're interpreting the rules of football, which I think is perfectly acceptable, like you interpret the rules of anything else.
No, I still maintain they are basically cheating, quite simply.
Yeah.
I mean, I go to Old Trafford and I see teams up there in the first half wasting time looking for a draw.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nonsense. I've seen it happen to Chelsea. I've seen it happen to Man City.
Yeah.
Teams all go and start wasting time in the first. I don't want that.
Yeah.
As a fan who pays my money, I want to see the game played properly.
Would there be a problem, Joe, though, with the, as Mike said earlier, would it become like a game of NFL football where in fact it's only an hour in length. However, it takes 2 hours to play.
Or 4 hours.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you may have a point there, but this is where they've got to look at it and to refine it where possible.
Yeah.
As simple as that. But I don't dispute that could be an issue. However, we should endeavour as best as we can to make this wonderful sport, this wonderful game, as best as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, the game is riddled with many cancers, whether it be cheating, greed, malice with intent.
Totally agree.
All sorts.
Yeah, totally agree. But
Joe, listen, thank you very much indeed for that. Danny says this: I think football should take a leaf from rugby's book. The clock stops for subs and certain incidents, so when the time is up, it is actually up.
Yeah, but you see, all of this is because FIFA do not back officials to be regarded as men with iron disciplinary instincts. And that's all you need. You need referees backed up. For instance, we've only just now got to the idea in the recent final that a player can be sent off for feigning, for simulation.
Yes.
For feigning he's been fouled when he hasn't. That should have been implemented 10 years ago. That would change football.
What do you mean,
altogether.
a direct red card for that as opposed to just a second yellow?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was very difficult to give the second yellow because the ref knew what the consequence would be of sending off as a result of feigning injury.
Right.
But yes, you're absolutely right. A red card for somebody who simulates a dive in the area to try and win a penalty.
Yeah.
If you start implementing tough ruling like that, it will get over a lot of these problems.
Well, it may well do, but obviously they're not being implemented, and that's why some of these more innovative ideas are being suggested. Let's talk to Mick, who's a Stoke fan.
Yeah.
See what he thinks. Hi, Mick.
Hi.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on this?
My thoughts, I think we'd improve the game a lot, entertainment-wise, and the supporters who pay the money, I think they get more value for money if, for a 0-0 draw, no points awarded. No points awarded. It would stop teams sort of the last call. I agree with him. Going to Old Trafford, putting 8 men along the goal line to try and stop them. If you have a 0-0 draw, you don't get any points. And I've seen it towards the end of the season when you've seen two teams playing each other.
Yeah.
Well, if they draw and they get a point apiece, they both automatically go in the playoffs because they only need a point apiece.
Yes.
So they could play out a board draw. People are getting robbed because they're paying the money to get in, and they're watching a board draw. So I would say 0-0, no points.
Well, I quite like that.
I quite like that as well.
I quite like that, Mick. The only problem is,
wouldn't be very good for Jose Mourinho last season.
It wouldn't have been very good at all, would it? And
brilliant.
Yeah. But I will encourage anything that incites or incentivises people to score more goals. That's not a bad one. Thanks,
that's
Mick.
not bad at all. Mick, thank you very much indeed. Mick, the Stoke fan there. I mean, I quite like the idea of the no encroaching in the penalties situation
I like that as well.
Where if you miss the penalty the first time, because I always feel a bit sorry for goalkeepers who save a penalty.
That's right.
And then the guy runs in and kicks it in on the rebound.
Yeah, to an extent. I understand what you're saying. But then again, you could say it makes it more exciting if a player can have a second go at it once the goalkeeper's handled it.
But doesn't that isn't that sort of double jeopardy against the goalkeeper, isn't it? Because I mean, surely that you should have to score the penalty first time.
Yeah, I agree.
If not, it doesn't. You don't get a goal.
Okay, that's one that I might be able to come to an agreement with you about.
Well, what we could do is we could ask Pep Southgate whether he would be in favour of introducing any of these new rules.
Have you seen that old Pep has suddenly turned up?
He's popped off to Poland, hasn't he?
He's popped off to Poland, the under 21, and I thought it was remarkable. You know the way sometimes people are doing a job and suddenly their boss turns up, and then they always get terribly grateful for the boss turning up. They don't say, hang on, you're undermining me because I'm doing the job here.
Yes.
I know the first result, the 0-0 draw, wasn't great, but then suddenly Pep Southgate turns up. Adi Boothroyd has a very specific view on this, and that is that...
It's a great thing.
It's a great thing.
Well,
absolutely delighted. I want to thank Gareth for coming here with all the experience and knowledge he's got and bringing his team with him.
Yeah, but
it'll help me enormously.
But isn't it true, though, that this FA sort of structure, which seems like it's more like a pyramid than it is like a board, isn't it? I mean, so Gareth Southgate is at the top of it, and he is very much the boss of all the coaches.
Yes, that's right.
So the idea that all of these teams, the under-20s and the under-21s, have all got their own kind of destiny in their own hands is untrue. Because Southgate basically tells them all what to do, doesn't he?
No, he doesn't. No.
I think he does.
Well, he was under-21 coach.
Yeah.
And they had a successful run under him, right?
Well, they did, but I mean, at the same time, if somebody from Roy Hodgson's camp came and said, right, we want that player from your team to come and play in the seniors, he would have to go, OK, then. He couldn't say no, could he?
Yes, he would. Well, he'd put up a defence and say, look, I think it's better for the boys to develop here, and Roy would say, I want him. But no, I mean, I think he did it without any influence from those above. Sam Allardyce, as I recall, made it very clear that his job and his role was to deal with the senior team mostly only, and let the others below him get on with it. So if Southgate's now made it collegiate, i.e., no, it's all mine.
I think he does think that.
Yeah, I think. But do you know what I think? Yeah. I think he's had such a period of inactivity before the last two internationals. Yeah. I think he's quite cleverly decided, actually the England manager doesn't have enough to do. Yeah. So I'm going to get involved in these other tournaments and make out that I'm sort of, the commander-in-chief type
Well, we'll
thing.
talk some more about this in the next hour, but the trouble for him as well is if he didn't go, people would say, why isn't Gareth Southgate out there looking at all these young players?
Well, would
Can't
they?
win,
I
can he?
don't know. They haven't done in the past, but anyway.
Well, we might do.
Yeah, sure.
It's true.
Yeah.
Also, we've got Heroes and Villains coming up in the next hour as well. This is
With
talkSPORT.
the heroes and villains.
Good morning, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry. Good afternoon, I should say, actually. You're listening to the two mics on talkSPORT. The sun has now gone over the yard arm. It's very, very hot. It's about 30 degrees today in London. We'll be finding out whether Porky's suffering from any stress-related heat stroke. And also, of course, it's another edition of Heroes and Villains coming up. We're going to be asking the question whether golf has just got itself too complicated to be entertaining anymore. 08717 22 3344. You're listening to the two mics with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry on talkSPORT.
Now then, right?
Now then?
Yes.
Ways if you're about to say something very important.
I am. Ways to improve sport, okay?
Yes.
Now then, did you watch the cricket yesterday, the cricket final?
I didn't really watch the cricket final. Right. What I did do was watch the celebrations afterwards.
Yes, okay. Well, I watched the cricket final, and Pakistan went in first, and it was almost seamless exhibition of batting power.
Yes.
It was just brilliant.
It was a lot less...
Come out and replicate that, or do even better. What a majestic sort of afternoon it's going to have been. But India didn't. Now... so, actually, it sort of, in the end, it all finished a bit sooner than we thought it was going to finish. Yeah. And that's the unpredictability of cricket.
Yes.
Now, believe it or not, I thought of a brand new way, because cricket's always looking for ways to reinvent itself.
Yes.
We used to have 5-day county cricket and test cricket.
Yes.
And then, of course, we had 50 over, 20 over, all this kind of stuff, day-night cricket and all that. What about this for a brilliant way to do it? What happens is that the first pairing come out, so that's batsman number 1 and 2, okay? Yeah. And what happens is, when one of them is out, they're both out.
Okay.
And then the next team comes in, batsman 3 and 4.
Yes.
You see what I mean?
I don't mind that.
Yeah, okay. And then they knock up what they can.
Would you need to have more batsmen then?
No,
or not?
no.
You still have the basic team.
No, you just have the basic team. Yeah. But this is a way of doing it. And then
you have 5 pairs of batsmen, basically.
Exactly, 5 pairs of batsmen. But what I'm saying is the 5 pairs of batsmen that you have wouldn't necessarily need to be the batsmen in the order of their ability.
No,
do you see what I mean?
No.
So the opening batsmen who are generally regarded as the best...
you wouldn't want to put 2 good batsmen in together, would you?
That's precisely what I'm saying. Yeah. You're absolutely right. And what you'd always have is, you'd always have a top batsman and a duffer.
Yes.
And,
well, hopefully you wouldn't have any duffers in the team.
Well,
But I know what you mean.
Yeah.
You'd have sort of number 9 with number 1, wouldn't you?
Yes.
You would sort of do it that way.
Or, tactically, if you're a brilliant tactician as a coach, you might decide to have your 2 best batsmen in your third pairing. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And they smash them all over the ground, and that's how you win it.
Yeah. So this would have the effect of what? Making the game quicker or more exciting?
More exciting.
Yeah.
More exciting.
I mean, I'm not against it at all.
More exciting.
It's quite interesting.
And and then I thought this is.
I love the idea of the duffer getting out and the guy who's like about to shoot 100.
Yeah, that's right.
Has to go with him.
Well, you see, this is the whole conundrum.
There'd be a lot of fights in the pavilion.
You would have a lot of fights and a lot of shouting at each other about you're no good,
idiots.
You think you're a genius, and who do you think you are, and all that.
Right.
I think it would be brilliant. So I'd like the cricket authorities, please, who I know listen to this station, to have a consideration for that.
We'll have to mention it next time we're up at Lord's.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
I mean, because people, they run each other out, of course, don't they? I mean, that has happened in the past, and they don't enjoy that. Well, you can tell they really don't like that.
I mean, obviously, there's been accusations over the years of batsmen running, the man out at the other end through malice and ill will and all that kind of stuff. But they're not very well recorded.
No, I mean, it's funny you talk about improving cricket. I think actually cricket at the moment could probably do with a period of calm because they've got so many different versions of it going on.
Yeah.
And so many. I mean, we've just had the ICC Championships live on talkSPORT, which were very exciting and which were 2020 style and all that.
Yeah. But now it moves overseas somewhere, doesn't it?
Well, they've always got the big bash going on in Australia, haven't they? They've got the IPL going on in India.
I think it's international cricket.
Yeah,
that moves,
and there was something like 1 billion people watched that game yesterday.
Well,
funny
you should say that because it's said to be one of the, probably the biggest cricket fixture in the world. And I think when young Dance came in here at the end of last week, didn't he say,
Saturday,
he said, God, I'm going to be part of it tomorrow. And he was talking about 870 million or something like that.
Yeah.
It was a very, very big figure around the world somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely right. Now, I've got a very, very good little quiz that I want to give you just before we move on to the subject of golf, which we want to talk about, because golf, I've been listening over the course of the weekend, and the US Open obviously now won by, I think, the seventh in a row player to have won a major for the first time at the US Open.
I know, it's brilliant.
And a lot of people are very disheartened.
Yes, you mean the US Open was the 7th major where a new player had won it, yes.
No, I think it's the US Open that's been won, isn't it, for the first time?
No, the last 7 majors.
Oh, is it the last 7 majors?
Have all been won by a new player.
By a new player.
Yeah.
Right, now, how close to burnout are you is the question. Now, obviously, that doesn't mean just hot burnout because you're very burnt out at the moment because of the heat.
Yeah.
But what I want you to do is answer these questions as honestly as you can, right? And basically, the answers are mostly often, sometimes, or never, right?
Okay.
So, 1, I am easily upset by small things.
No.
Never.
No.
Okay.
Never.
I often try to please others.
No, not necessarily.
Is that sometimes?
Sometimes.
Okay, we'll give you a mark for that. I find it hard to breathe or breathe excessively.
I don't have any problems with breathing, despite the fact I've only got 1/3 of my heart.
So
working.
Never?
Never.
Okay. I feel impatient if I'm delayed.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
I don't like people to delay me.
Okay. I often feel lonely.
No, I never feel lonely.
Okay. Let's see.
I'm happy in my own company.
I feel refreshed when I wake up.
Yes, I always feel refreshed when I wake up because I plan my sleeping pattern intensely and immaculately.
I don't think you're answering these questions accurately at all. I worry what others think of me.
No, I don't care what other people think of me. I know I have a mission in life. Either. I have a mission in life and I pursue it.
I wake naturally in the morning. Well, you don't ever go to sleep.
I wake naturally in the morning. That is a yes. That's a big yes.
Okay. I have quality time with friends.
Yes, I have quality time with friends. Yes, I do.
That's rubbish as well.
Why?
Well, you were sometimes. You should say sometimes.
All right, sometimes. You've
definitely got to give yourself that. I worry about how things will turn out. That's something you do.
No.
You're saying you don't?
No, because I'm in control. I'm in charge. Okay. I don't have a problem worrying about outcomes of things.
I check my phone compulsively. You're actually checking it at the moment?
Yes, okay, yeah. I do, because you've got to be on top of the game.
Okay, I can turn my technology off at the weekend.
Well, not really.
You don't, do you?
No, I don't, no.
I compare my life to the stories I read on social media.
No, I don't compare myself to anybody.
Who would do that.
No.
I feel my life has purpose.
Yes, my life definitely has purpose.
What, sometimes?
No, all the time. To enlighten and pursue excellence.
I worry about money. No, you must admit that's what you worry about. You say you fear poverty.
Okay, I'll admit to that, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I feel happy with my looks.
Yes, I have no body image problems whatsoever.
Okay, I can let my mistakes go. You don't make any, do you?
Well, no, I do, and the answer closest to the one I want is I learn from my mistakes.
Sometimes,
yeah.
Okay, I fall asleep on the sofa before bedtime.
Never.
Okay.
No.
And I dream of a different life.
No, I don't dream of a different life. I have the life I have, and I try to make the best of it.
11, right. Mm-hmm. So you are sometimes, generally speaking, person. It's harder to pause when everything on the surface seems good, albeit with a nagging sense of unease. It feels selfish to complain, but you can't seem to stop worrying about what might go wrong, or you don't feel passionate about life anymore.
Well, that's a pursuit of
excellence. Take the chance to take a break before things get ahead of you. Be ready to ask yourself uncomfortable questions and recognise that these are key to opening up your horizons. So you need to take a holiday. That's basically what they're saying.
Yeah, okay.
So you're somewhere in the middle on the burnout front.
Right, okay.
Just thought I'd let you know.
Okay, and did you take a sort of psychological side glance at those questions as we went through them? Have you worked out what you are?
Yeah, I did, actually, because I took the test yesterday.
Oh, you did?
And I scored slightly less than you, which means actually that I'm I'm less stressed out than you are.
Yeah, but that's because you care less about getting on in life.
But it also says now is the time to address areas of your life that feel overwhelming, frustrating, or disappointing.
Yeah, but you wouldn't even...
I don't really have any areas of life that are like that.
No, but you wouldn't even dream of pursuing excellence on a daily basis.
I don't need to pursue
can't be up to it.
I've already attained it.
No, rubbish.
Don't need to pursue it.
Nobody's attained excellence.
Really?
Trouble with you is you're so laid back.
It's all comparative.
You just hope it will all happen,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And half the time, people like me have to try and help you make it happen.
Thanks very much for ruining it the last time.
Oh, yeah.
This is talkSPORT. It is. We've got another episode of Heroes and Villains coming up, and there were lots of heroes and lots of villains over the weekend in the sporting vernacular, of course. One of them, you'd have to say, in the hero camp would be Tommy Fleetwood.
Definitely.
A man who was right at the top of the leaderboard, right the way to the end of the US Open over in Wisconsin at the weekend. And we're going to now talk to Norman Marshall, who's his former coach at Formby up there in the Northwest, where he started his career in the golfing world. Norman, a very good afternoon to you. Welcome.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us. You must have been on tenterhooks. I imagine there was a lot of you sitting around watching Tommy yesterday or going on late into the night.
Oh, it was absolutely fantastic. Very, very exciting.
When you say very exciting, Norm, I mean, how surprised were you that he finally made the breakthrough into the very highest echelons of the golfing world? Did you always think or know it was going to happen?
Yeah, well, I had a strong feeling. I first met Tommy when he was 6, and by the time he was 8 years old, I realised there was something totally different about him. Yeah. But in terms of this result, it's not that much of a surprise. He's one of the best ball strikers in the world. The statistics bear that out, and he's only got to get a chance in his previous victories or chances to win. He's never ever backed down. So, I was cautiously optimistic yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, it was a very tough-looking course, and of course, we'd already seen the top 3 golfers in the world by rankings crash out before the final 2 days of the weekend.
That's right.
I mean, for a guy who hasn't been in that position before, he seemed to be a very cool customer, did Tommy.
Well, I think he is a very cool customer, and I think winning in golf is winning, and the pressure for most people would be quite crushing, but we've seen from Tommy before that he can do it. And I think he just goes into his own little bubble, and he's capable of producing some of his best golf under the most intense pressure, which most of us couldn't do. That's why we like to watch him. So.
Sure. Yeah, and when you're coaching somebody like that from a young age, I mean, can you coach that into them, or do they either have it or not?
I think it is a lot of it is natural ability. Tommy came to me between the ages of 6 and 10, but I think at the absolute highest level, it is a special kind of person who can produce under intense pressure, like playing a musical instrument with thousands of people watching. These people don't do it because they find it absolutely incredibly difficult. They do it because they find it relatively easy, and they can do things that most people can't.
That's right. Now, Norman, you have been his coach. Is that at Formby, or have you coached Tommy also on the Birkdale course, which, of course, is the setting for the Open coming up very soon, and a course of which I believe Tommy is well familiar?
Well, he is familiar, yeah. I actually coached him at another venue. I trained at Royal Birkdale, and I know, speaking to Tommy's dad, he has been playing in recent months at Royal Birkdale, both for practice and in a couple of events and company days that he does. So he will be intimately familiar with it.
When you say intimately familiar, I mean, does that give him a distinct advantage? He's, the world's best golfers are going to turn up. They all get practice days. What's the advantage of having been there before?
Well, I think most of these golfers will be aware of Royal Birkdale. They're used to arriving at a venue and getting a feel for it in the practice days. But I don't think you can be experience gathered over the longer term. And, of course, he only lives around the corner, so I'm hoping he can lift the claret jug and still be back in time for tea.
Wow. Do you know whether, Norman, whether Tommy's coming back for the Scottish Open or whether he's got more commitments over in the US of A?
I don't 100% know, but as his world ranking climbs, his calendar can shift.
Yeah.
So we saw that in the run up to the Masters as he raced to get into top 50 to get an automatic place in the Masters, which he did. His calendar can shift about a bit. So although I saw him 10 days ago, I'm not 100% sure what's on next for him.
OK, fine. Now then, this is the $64,000 question, Norm. I hope you too are an Evertonian, because I first heard about Tommy, some weeks ago, some months ago, because of his association to Everton Football Club. Is that something that runs through his coaching camp?
Oh, it's absolutely cut me in half on blue and white.
Oh, I love it. I love you. Thank God you're on talkSPORT.
Calm down, for heaven's sake. I mean, Porky manages to turn this show into sort of an Everton fest every single day, Norman, and I'm terribly sorry that he's done it again in the middle of a golfing conversation.
No, but tell us about your devotion to the club, Norman.
Well, I would say I'm not the biggest football fan in the world. When I found out I wasn't good enough to be a footballer, I got into golf. But I used to go with an ex-manager of a business that I ran, and we used to go to Goodison quite a lot. Always found it friendly, nice atmosphere.
Great.
Yeah, and I enjoyed it. And I saw Tommy went to the Everton training ground and took them on a golfing challenge. That's on YouTube.
Lovely.
Fantastic. And I know he's very much an Evertonian.
Yeah.
He took the claret jug actually onto the pitch a few months ago.
Did he? That's brilliant, isn't it? Because one of these days that might be his claret jug, and that would be fantastic, wouldn't it, eh?
Absolutely right. It's great to have the Open up in your neck of the woods again, Norman. Is it going to be... how hard is the course going to play at this time of the year now?
Well, there's two factors. There's the wind, and there's what they do to the rough. And I would imagine, like the US Open, they let the rough grow a lot before the Open, and that gives them the option to cut it back depending on what the weather's doing. So I would say the weather's the biggest factor at the British Open. And with such a big field, if you go out in the morning, it can be still. By late afternoon, it can be windy. So you need a little bit luck of the draw in terms of which part of the field you're in.
And I mean, a lot of talk over the weekend, Norman, about just golf in general and how it's becoming this massively long-hitting game now. And they're building courses in America like the one we just saw the US Open played on. There's big walks between the greens and the tees, and it's like an extra mile for everybody that plays it. The game's hitters are getting longer and longer and longer. They're hitting 300-yard drives, 350. I mean, it's getting ridiculous, isn't it?
It is unbelievable how far they can hit the ball, but we know by the miles an hour that they can swing the driver at how far the ball will go, and Tommy would be between 118 and 122 miles an hour with his driver. But I noticed the small guy, Harmon, yesterday, he swung one at 108 miles an hour, so it just goes to show that's a lot more. A very good amateur golfer might creep up to that.
Yes.
So there's more than one way to skin a cat, especially on extremely tough courses.
Sure,
absolutely right.
Absolutely right. And have you got a bottle of champagne waiting behind the bar at Formby?
I think they will rustle one up. In fact, they've created here at Formby Hall the Tommy Fleetwood room.
Have they?
So,
Great.
Yeah, they're just finishing it off now. In fact, Tommy himself's a golf nut. Somebody just reminded me today, Tommy actually plays golf with his dad on Christmas Day.
Does he?
He does, yeah. We see him here all the time. He loves golf. When Tommy isn't competing on the tour, where you might think he'd put his clubs away, it's a grueling schedule, he plays golf. He plays with his mates, and obviously he's got his best mate on the bag, the caddy.
Sure. That's brilliant. Well, listen, Norman, thank you so much for joining us and telling us all about that. This is talkSPORT, and of course we are the two mics coming up. It's time for Heroes and Villains. That music can only mean one thing. This is where we choose two heroes and two villains, and then Izzy, our producer behind the glass, decides which one she prefers.
Yes.
I think at the moment it's a bit closer than the 1 minute moan on a Saturday, but I would say it's around about something like 10 to 7 or something like that. Does that sound about right to you?
Yeah, sounds about right.
Have you got two heroes and two villains ready?
Of course.
Would you like to go first?
I will go first.
Go on then.
And I'm going to go first with my first villain.
Go on.
Okay, my first villain is John Cleese.
John Cleese?
Yes, John Cleese is the man who...
the national treasure.
The national treasure.
Yeah.
And the point
What's wrong with him then?
Well, he's got an event coming up very shortly, okay? And for this event, if you want to go there and you're a big John Cleese fan, be prepared to pay 135 quid. Right, literally 135 quid to have your picture taken, to get an autograph and get a chat with him. Right. Because he's decided that that's what he's worth. And that's what he's going to charge.
Well, is this a kind of VIP scenario?
Well, what's happening is it's at the London Film and Comic. It says con, which I didn't want to stress. Isn't it? Convention, but it's called the London Film and Comic.
It's not a con, really.
Well, I didn't want to say that.
I mean, they all do it, don't they? I'm surprised you don't do it. I'm surprised when you meet people in the street and they ask for a picture, you don't charge them a tenner.
Well, it's at Olympia, which is a famous venue.
You didn't
£65.
Then,
yes, I did. I did listen, but time is short.
Okay.
I understand what you were saying.
Time is now short suddenly.
Trying to accuse me of being in the same position. Right. £65 for an autograph, £60 for a snap, and more if you want to cozy up to John Cleese. Now, I'm sorry, but John Cleese is, as you say, a national treasure. Yeah. He should be available to his fans who've supported him for 40 or 50 years. He has made literally tens of millions of pounds.
But he's had to give all of it away to his former wives.
Well, that's his problem. He shouldn't then be charging fans a second time.
So what?
Because we all pay the BBC licence fee to have watched,
he's not employed for the
Towers.
BBC.
His programmes went to the BBC.
Yeah, I know.
So I think that's a bit dastardly. And I'm sorry, John, although I admire you enormously, I think it's a bit villainous to be charging your fans 135 quid. And we have checked it out on the website, and that is accurate information.
Is it? Well, that makes a change from somebody like you. My first villain of the weekend is Pamela Anderson. I don't know whether you saw Pamela Anderson's love letter.
Pamela Anderson?
Yeah, Pamela Anderson.
The girl who used to be in Baywatch.
The girl that was in Baywatch.
Right.
Woman, actually, used to be in Baywatch. She's from Canada, of course.
Yes.
She wrote a very bizarre letter to the new president of France, Monsieur Macron, in which she said that they should give political asylum to Julian Assange because he's such a sexy man.
Good.
And she said that he stood up to all sorts of slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. Yes. And she also said, inside of this note, that Theresa May was the worst Prime Minister that Britain had ever had.
Really? And
people were rather astonished at the fact that, one, she knew so much about the previous Prime Ministers of Britain.
Exactly.
But that also she would be so awful about giving a hard time to Theresa May, who, of course, everybody's giving a hard time to, and nobody would disagree with that. However, I'm not quite sure when Pamela Anderson suddenly became this kind of political figure.
Yeah.
And there were lots of people on Twitter making some rather rude remarks about, whether she had the time or the inclination to do such things.
Absolutely.
Well, I thought she should keep her nose out of it, really.
Absolutely. Well, there's not much of the old sisters are doing it for themselves.
None at all, no. None at all.
Yeah.
Absolutely none at all.
Right, OK.
But I would recommend you read the letter. It's quite amusing.
Quite amusing,
yeah,
that's great.
She's a villain in my book.
OK. Now, my first hero, and I am, making no apologies for repeating this man's name so quickly after we've just spoken to his coach.
See this one
but
coming.
It's Tommy Fleetwood. It has to be.
And for not winning?
No, it's Tommy Fleetwood for finishing fourth in the US Open. Absolute magnificent achievement. Yeah. He wobbled at the start of his final round yesterday, but he held it. And although he didn't win in the end, because he started the day one behind the leader and finished up, I think, 4 behind the leader, he still had a brilliant day. And he really is the pride of England at the moment. And as Birkdale's his local course, I'm making him a hero for the day and hope he'll be a bigger hero.
Don't tip him to win the Open, please.
I hope he'll be a bigger hero in a month's time.
OK. My first hero is Mickey Arthur. Do you know who Mickey Arthur is?
No.
Mickey Arthur is the coach of Pakistan.
Oh, OK.
Pakistan, who won for the first time the ICC Champions Trophy yesterday at the Oval, having beaten India very much against the odds. This is a guy who's South African by birth, has coached the South African national team, has coached the Australian national team, and has now coached very successfully the Pakistan national team.
Bit of a journeyman, isn't he?
Well, I wouldn't call him a journeyman because he's been so successful.
Yeah, but he
particularly
just goes round
in winning.
And round and round.
Well, I mean, there are not many cricket coaches that can boast of actually running the national side of 3 separate countries.
OK.
And I think you should be very, very impressed by that.
Yes, OK.
Much more so than by somebody who came fourth in a competition.
OK, fine.
That's my first hero.
Right, OK. So I'll go to my second villain.
Yeah.
My second villain, without a shadow of a doubt, is Adi Boothroyd, the man whose boss suddenly descended upon him in the middle of the under-21 performance, Pep Southgate, and to which Adi said, well, I'm very, very grateful to have Gareth here, I can't believe it. It will help me enormously, it will really get the lads going, chose my players as a pathway for them if Gareth turns up. Well, I'm sorry, Ady, but,
Where's that voice accent from,
well, that's a sort of, sort of semi-impersonation. But frankly, I'd have preferred Ady to say, look, Gareth can come if he wants and he can sit in the stands if he wants, but I am still in charge of this tournament, you know? So I'm sorry, to that extent, I think the lines are getting too crossed in which coaches are running which England teams, and he's my second villain.
OK. My second villain is Diego Costa.
Right.
Because Diego Costa seems to be causing as much trouble off the field as he normally has on the field. Right. You know, when he's playing football, he's always trying to get people sent off. Yes. He's always trying to, do the dirty on various other players, which some people don't mind. If you're a Chelsea fan, you might quite like the fact that he plays like that, and he scores a lot of goals, and he wins tournaments for Chelsea and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But he's basically trying to destabilise what is the most successful club in the country at the moment, having won the Premier League at a bit of a canter. He now seems to be sort of, shall we say, causing trouble behind the scenes and getting Comrade Abramovich all worked up. To the point where if Abramovich starts to side with Costa, he's going to get rid of Antonio Conte, which would be an absolute travesty.
Right.
Because the guy's come to Chelsea, he's won the Premier League in the first season, he's going to take them into the Champions League.
Yes.
I think Diego Costa needs to be cut adrift before he causes any more trouble.
OK, fine. Well, my second and final hero is, this is an amazing story, actually. It's Paolo Maldini.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Paolo Maldini, at 48 years of age, after a hugely successful career, the former Italy and AC Milan defender, is going to play in the Milan Open doubles after coming through qualifying at the Aspria Tennis Cup with his partner Stefano Landonic, who is a professional tennis player.
Okay.
I mean, unbelievably, he didn't take tennis up until about 2 years ago.
Right.
But he has actually got into the professional ranks of achievers within that sport.
So this is not a senior tournament, it's a real tournament?
No, it's a real tournament. It's a real tournament. It's a real tournament. He's 48 years of age and qualifying at the Aspria Tennis Cup with partner Stefano Landonic. You just got to take your hat off to a guy like that. What a supreme athlete.
Well,
it
depends how well he does, I suppose. He hasn't won anything yet, has he?
Well, he's a real hero, even to have got that far.
I mean, both of your heroes, right, haven't won anything.
No, but both my heroes are huge achievers against the odds, and that's what makes them heroes.
Okay.
Because none of your heroes have won anything either.
Well, actually, Mickey Arthur just won the ICC trophy.
Well, he didn't actually win it. He was the coach.
He's the coach,
He was the coach
He's
of
the winning
team that
coach.
did win it. Yeah. Okay.
So when you say he hasn't won anything, you're wrong.
He didn't get out on the pitch with a bat, did he?
And here's somebody else who's won something, and it is, of course, Ronaldo, who is my second hero, because Ronaldo is a hero for
he's trying to blow up European football single-handedly.
No, he's not. He wants to come back to Manchester United, a place where his career was founded and forged by Sir Alex Ferguson, proving once and for all that he does understand loyalty, that he does understand the fact that, occasionally you have to give something back to the people that gave you so much. And I think Manchester United fans would do well to welcome him back with open arms. And I hope very much that he comes back to the Premier League, because I think he would absolutely light it up, and it would confirm once and for all that perhaps the Premier League really is the best football league in the world.
Yeah, OK.
So my two heroes, Ronaldo and Mickey Arthur, my two villains, Pamela Anderson and Diego Costa.
Yeah.
I think that's hard to beat.
Excellent. OK, well, not a bad choice. My choices were good. We leave it now to Izzy, my favourite producer of all time, to sort out who's going to win.
Such a creep.
And I hope this won't influence the way anybody thinks, but Brooke has sent us a great text here, and he says...
Brooke who?
I don't know, Brooke somebody. It just kind of disappeared. Oh, here we go. Not sure how much more of talkSPORT I can take with this blinking idiot Mike Parry presenting. That's a bit harsh, isn't it?
That is a bit harsh, yeah. Well, maybe he's friends with somebody else. Who can say? This is talkSPORT. This is talkSPORT. We are the two mics. I'm eagerly awaiting the judgment of Izzy.
It's in.
Hey? What do you mean it's in?
The judgment's in.
What do you mean it's in?
On Heroes and Villains.
Well, I haven't heard it.
I know. That's because I've been delivered the verdict.
Oh, have you?
I've won.
So you're announcing it?
I've won.
You've won?
I've won.
What do you mean you've won?
I've won.
How can you have won?
Well, I have. I've got the nomination. I've won. And
that's outrageous.
It's because I picked some brilliant candidates, but one of them was Monty Python, John Cleese. And it's a story which I discussed with my producer this morning. We haven't had time to introduce it to the show.
This is a story that Izzy gave you.
No, gave me.
Yeah, she did.
No, it was a meeting.
She found it in the paper and gave it to you.
Oh, rubbish. Don't
and that's why she's now given you the award.
I was aware of this story.
That's absolutely shocking.
Some 36 hours ago, and I saw it on social networking and all that kind of stuff, so no problem there.
No, absolutely shocking.
So, that's great, because I'm glad to see that some balance has come into the judging of these things, and you won't be boasting about running away with the lead in them anymore because your favourite people aren't behind the glass anymore.
My favourite people? Well, it's not about whether they're my favourite people or not. It's obviously that your selections were much, much worse than mine, as anybody will tell you. And in fact...
Well, Pamela in Baywatch, how much relevance is that to modern life? That's about 40 years ago.
Well, it was the top trending subject on Twitter over the weekend. I know you don't understand Twitter and you don't really understand social media, but everyone was talking about it. And if you don't think Pamela Anderson is more interesting than John Cleese, then I think you better go and lie down in a dark room.
Well, I think John Cleese has more relevance. Now, I think we should also, shouldn't we, think about the callers today and how good they've been.
Eh?
The callers today have been really good.
We've got to give away £100 Wix gift voucher, haven't we?
Of course we have.
Who do you think we should give it to?
Well,
I think it's your turn to pick someone.
It is, actually. I was looking through, and just in that last break, I reviewed a few of the callers.
Crawlers?
I was going to say crawlers. Crawlers.
There's a Freudian slip.
And,
actually, one of them was a bit of a crawler, wasn't he?
Well, no.
I think that was Ian, wasn't it?
Well, funny enough, Ian, the Arsenal fan, was an outstanding caller. And
no, he was an outstanding crawler, I think is what you're looking at.
No. He was an outstanding caller.
You can't give it to him.
Yes, no, he made some very coaching points.
Actually, I think it was very tongue-in-cheek, his caller.
No.
His call. In fact, somebody asked when he was on if it was Andy Murray. Playing a little joke on us.
No. He was a chap with a Scottish accent, but he made some very, very salient points, for that reason. He also actually said that he agrees with most of everything that I say, which has not influenced me.
That clearly means that he's either calling from some kind of secure unit, or he's suffering from heat stroke.
No, not at all. I mean, but anyway, that's got nothing to do with it. The point is that overall, the points he made were very good. So I have to say, Ian, the Arsenal fan, the £100.
You're not really giving it to him.
Yes, the £100 worth of Wix vouchers is coming your way. Thank you very much indeed for your contribution.
Well, let me read you this
to the show today
to prove how out of touch you are with the common man. Yeah. Patrick says this: if MG doesn't win Heroes and Villains, I'd be calling for a steward's inquiry. Yeah. Porky is clearly suffering from heat stroke and is deluded.
No, nobody's
that's
calling.
What people are thinking.
Now, there's one. You see, you don't get everybody being very complimentary. It says here, the two mics. Porky's idea to improve cricket is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Almost as stupid as his trickle-down economics theory. That comes from a guy called Jack Taylor.
Yes, indeed.
Isn't that ironic that it's Jack Taylor?
Why is it ironic?
Because Jack Taylor was the referee who refereed, the 1966 FA Cup final, right?
Yeah.
He's a butcher from Wolverhampton.
Yeah.
When Everton beat Sheffield Wednesday 3-2. But then 8 years later, he refereed the World Cup final in 1974.
And he's got such an unusual name.
When Germany won, didn't they, in 74? Yeah. 70 Brazil,
they
74.
Did, because it was in Germany, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was,
It was in Munich.
Yeah, that's
I've
right.
got a big coffee table book of it, actually.
You're absolutely right,
Because the Munich Olympics were 2 years before, obviously.
Yeah, sadly,
Now, a little announcement to make, because Bob is one of our big fans, and he wants us to wish his wife, Julie, a happy 50th birthday.
Oh, okay.
He says even if it's a belated one, because it was yesterday, it would be fantastic. She would be very happy to hear from you.
Well, how old is lady? 50.
It's 50th.
What's her name again?
50. Julie.
I want to wish you a very, very happy 50th birthday. I tell you what, 50 is the new 40, as you well know.
Absolutely.
I understand that you're a lady full of energy and, panache. So I hope you have a brilliant day and a brilliant life.
Okay. Now, I've got an interesting story to tell you.
Okay.
Because somebody's just drawn my attention to
interesting stories.
Rachel Burden and Piers Morgan have been having a bit of a spat on Twitter, right?
Oh, yeah.
And she works for the BBC. He's apparently come out and said that he thinks he might have to stop working on Good Morning Britain soon.
Why?
Because it's slowly killing him.
Well, what do you mean by that?
He basically says he goes to bed at 8:45, right? He wakes up at 1 a.m., 2 a.m. and then 3 a.m.
Just to make sure that he doesn't get up late.
Well, partly that, but also you have a sort of, when we sleep weird hours, you have a sort of broken night's sleep, don't you?
Yeah,
you sleep
right,
during the day. Yeah. And then he says, basically you become a complete zombie. He says, I bumped into Sophie Rayworth at the Chelsea Flower Show, and she did it for 2 years on BBC Breakfast with Jeremy Bowen, and she told me he actually thought he was dying.
Yeah. Well, I saw that in his diary, I think, the week before last. I read Piers' diary yesterday, and it was his usually informative and entertaining self. Talking about meeting, famous people and all that kind of stuff. But I'm sure I must have read that then. Either that or an interview. By the way, there was a terrific spread based on a programme Piers has made about women in American prisons who are so evil you can't believe it.
Well, they're all killers, aren't they?
They're all killers. And I read it, a fantastic story about... There's one woman there, there's no forensic evidence against her whatsoever, but she's going to spend the rest of her life in jail. Because despite the fact that she had a very, very comfortable lifestyle with a bloke she'd married a year ago, she actually wanted it all for herself and didn't want him to be around. It's alleged she started an affair with another guy, so she just killed him. And there was
Do you mind if we get back to what I was talking about?
Sorry, go on, mate.
I mean, you're going on and on and on.
Well, you're going on about Piers. And what I'm saying is, yes, it can kill you, but in my view, he's the best thing that's happened to that programme for a long time.
Well, that's true. So they must be going to be trying to keep him on, but he's saying he can't do it. However, because he only does it 3 days a week, right? Rachel Burden, who says that she works 5 days a week for the BBC, she sends him a tweet, says, try 5 days a week, love, or even a real job. He says to her coming back, and this is why it's been drawn to our attention, is radio a real job?
Is radio a real job? Who's the lady again?
Rachel Burden.
And who does she work for?
She's on 5 Live.
5 Live. Does she do the breakfast show?
I don't know what she does now. They're always changing it around over there, aren't they?
I think they are, yeah. Well,
every time they lose more listeners, they shake it up a bit.
Look, I have terrific respect for all fellow professionals in the communications and radio broadcasting TV
Well, I'm
business.
asking you, Piers' question, is radio a real job?
Radio is very, very much a real job. And
I disagree.
No, radio's
not a real job.
Radio's a very, very real job.
People out there who are listening to us, right, who have proper jobs, which involve them working very hard, which involve them working more hours than we work, and involve them working probably more days than we work, which is sometimes hard to believe.
Yes.
You know, no way is this a real job.
Oh, you don't think it's a real job?
No, of course not.
Well, go off and do something else then.
No, I enjoy doing it.
Yeah, well, I enjoy doing it because
there's no point in pretending it's a real job.
It is a real job.
Talking into a microphone for 3 hours a day.
Well, I totally disagree with you. Although we talk into a microphone for 3 hours a day, that talking into that microphone reaches a lot of people, millions of people,
that doesn't make it a real job, though,
it does make it a real job, because
you
what
can't
you're doing
stand
is...
this, can you?
Well,
you can't stand thinking that this is not a real job.
Well, it is a very real job. That's what I'm saying. It's a communicative job. It reaches out to millions of people.
Right.
Look, some bloke who's in, some kind of job pushing a pen somewhere, some local...
Pushing a pen?
Yeah,
What, you mean a guy that has an office job?
Yeah, that's right.
Working in a horrible, difficult scenario, an environment which he doesn't enjoy, which involves working probably 8 or 9 hours a day.
Yeah.
Which is a much more arduous job than this.
No, I work 8 or 9 hours a day.
No, you don't.
I do. I'm like an iceberg, right? I'm like an iceberg because the 3 hours that I am actually live broadcasting with you is only the tip of the iceberg, and the rest of what I do is below the waterline.
Well, you're like one of those ducks where your feet are flapping about underneath the water, but nobody can see them.
Very much so.
But that's only because you want to keep yourself busy.
No, it's because you have to achieve a level of competence, and it don't come just like that.
My God, what, you mean you actually work to get this incompetent?
Yeah, no, I mean, what I don't understand you decrying the job you do.
I'm not decrying
I think I'll report to the management that you don't regard this as a real job, and therefore can I work with somebody, please, who does regard this as a real job?
Well, you've tried working with other people.
Who might take it more seriously.
Well, you have tried working with other people, but nobody could put up with you.
No.
So they always left.
No, that's rubbish. That is rubbish.
I'm the only one that can put up with you.
I was too...
I can make it actually work.
My problem is I'm a bit ahead of my time, and when I've gone into other projects to try and, create new frontiers in the broadcasting world.
What, like that TV station?
Yeah, that's right.
How did that go?
Not everybody's been able to keep up with me, unfortunately.
How did that end up?
How did that go?
Yeah.
Well, I think you'll find that it will contribute in a big way to the way people look at things in the future.
It went bankrupt, didn't it?
Well, look, the thing is that you've got to... Success is often a catalogue of failures put together before you achieve what you set out to achieve in the first place.
One of these days you will have a success, there's no question about it.
I've had plenty of successes, pal.
Have you?
Plenty.
Pal?
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Starting to get irritable now. Don't forget to follow the Two Mics, at the Two Mics on Twitter and on YouTube. Just look for Two Mics TV.